Aurelian, the cloud capital of the Cathar Empire, did not simply float. It dominated. It was a monument of gold and alabaster suspended over the poisonous beauty of a gas giant, a disk of impossible architecture miles wide, tethered in place by gravitational anchors that hummed a note just below the range of human hearing. Below it, the planet's atmosphere boiled in perpetual storms. A sea of turquoise and violet clouds illuminated from within by bolts of lightning that could vaporize a cruiser. Around the city, a sentinel fleet of imperial dreadnoughts hung in silent, perfect formation. They were the hard-shell defense. The city's true shield was the shimmering, invisible dome of energy that encapsulated all of it. A technology so advanced it was considered a gift from the cosmos itself. Down in the lower decks, in the industrial sector known as the Undercity, the air smelled of recycled oxygen, spicy noodles, and ozone. Here, among the kilometers of dripping pipes and flickering neon signs, Alex Ward kept his shop. The sign above his door was a flickering hollow that just read, "Ward's, if it's broken, it's probably fixable." Alex was a human, a wanderer in the Cathar lexicon, which was a polite term for refugee or undesirable. He was a man of indeterminate age, though the weariness in his eyes suggested he had seen too much. He kept a perpetual layer of grime on his jacket. His hair was an uncombed mess, and he usually had a sarcastic remark ready. He fixed things. Antique coffee makers for nostalgic Cathar nobles, protein synthesizers for noodle shop owners, and occasionally, discreetly, the personal shield generators for low-level mercenaries. He cultivated an aura of harmless, slightly inept usefulness. It was a good cover. He was currently arguing with a six-limbed Peak-Tharg over the price of a refurbished plasma inverter. 20 credits. You said 20 credits. Human. The Piktharg hissed, his mandibles clicking. I said at least 20, Alex countered, wiping grease from his hands onto an already filthy rag. He leaned back against his workbench, which was a chaotic masterpiece of exposed wires, scattered tools, and half-disassembled gadgets. That was before I found the family of Volt slugs living in the primary conduit. They had children, Piketh. It was tragic. Eviction notices cost extra. Make it 35. This is extortion. This is small business economics. Alex shrugged. Look, you want it or not, I can always put the slugs back in. The Pikatharg was about to hiss another protest when the entire shop vibrated. It was not the familiar, deep hum of the city's engines. This was a jarring physical impact that sent a specialized calibration tool rolling off the bench. It shattered on the floor. Alex stopped, smiling. Damn it, he muttered. That tool was irreplaceable. A siren began to wail, a rising, panicked tone he hadn't heard in years. Red alert lights flashed across the Undercity, painting the grime in strokes of crimson. The Pikik-Tharg scuttled backward, his alien features pale. What is that? That is not a storm drill. Alex was already moving, pushing past the client to his main diagnostic console. He ignored the citywide alerts popping up on the screen fleet movements, unauthorized approach, and instead pulled up the raw data feed from Aurelian's primary energy grid. His fingers flew across the holographic interface. He stared at the cascading lines of data, and the blood drained from his face. The energy frequencies of the main shield were fluctuating, dropping in a rhythmic, cascading pattern. It was a pattern he recognized, a pattern he had not seen in 5 years. He had been here before, 5 years ago. Alex Ward had been no mere repairman. He had been a desperate man, a ghost running from a past he could not bury. And he had found himself in the heart of Aurelian during a quiet, critical systems failure. The Imperial engineers, for all their arrogance, had missed a simple feedback loop in the planet shield's core. A human-made flaw, ironically, left over from the original terraforming tech they had stolen and repurposed. The core had been overloading, threatening to detonate and send Aurelian plunging into the gas giant. Alex, accidentally in the right place at the right time, had fixed it. He had rewritten the algorithm in under 10 minutes, stabilizing the core with a patch of code so elegant that Cathar couldn't even understand it. His reward was a private audience with the newly crowned Empress, Saris Cathera. She had been young, barely out of her teens, with the weight of an empire already settling on her shoulders. She had thanked him in a room empty of guards, given him a bag heavy with untraceable credits, and arranged for his quiet transport to the Undercity. The Empire, she had explained, could not publicly admit that its greatest technological marvel had been saved by a lesser species. Alex, who only wanted to disappear, had agreed. Now, that same signature flaw was back. But the readouts were different. This was not a malfunction. The code was not failing. It was being dismantled. The Piketharg shrieked and fled the shop as the overhead announcements confirmed Alex's fear. Unidentified fleet has breached the outer defense perimeter. All citizens seek immediate shelter. This is not a drill. Alex turned from the console, his eyes cold. He knew, with absolute certainty, that this was not a random attack. And he knew, just as certainly, that they would be coming for him. He had just begun to pack a small bag with his real tools, the neural interface, the multi-phase lockpick, the kinetic scrambler, when the door to his shop dissolved into molten slag. Two figures stood silhouetted against the red-lit hallway. They were Imperial Royal Guards, 8 feet tall, encased in the flawless, obsidian blue armor that marked them as the Empress's personal guard. They moved with a predatory grace that was utterly unlike the clumsy foot soldiers who patrolled the Undercity. Alex raised his hands slowly, the sarcastic mask snapping back into place. "Whoa, fellas," he said, forcing a casual drawl. "If this is about the overdue rent, I was just about to send the payment." "Honest. The check is in the mail." The lead guard did not speak. His helmet, a smooth, featureless cascade of black crystal, tilted slightly. He took one step into the shop. "Alex Ward," a synthesized voice echoed, devoid of all inflection. "By order of the Empress, you will come with us." "Love to, really. Big fan of the Empress," Alex said, already calculating angles. 2 of them, armored plasma rifles. He was fast, but he wasn't that fast. "But as you can see, we're in the middle of a siege. Kinda busy. Rain check." The guard's hand shot out, moving faster than Alex could track. He grabbed Alex by the front of his jacket, lifting him clean off the floor. Alex's feet dangled uselessly. "This is not a request," the synthesized voice said. "Right, got it." Alex choked out, the sarcasm mostly gone. As the guard turned and began to march him out of the shop, Alex's eyes, unseen by his captors, were cold and sharp. He knew exactly what this meant. Someone had weaponized his old fix. Someone knew. And the only person who knew, he was the one who'd fixed it, was sitting on the Imperial throne. The journey to the spire was a blur of brutalist efficiency. The guards dragged him through panicked crowds, onto a private gravlift that bypassed all security, and upward, leaving the grime and noise of the Undercity far below. They emerged into the Imperial Palace. The transition was always a shock. The air here was clean, tasting of faint ozone and privilege. The halls were carved from living crystal, pulsing with soft, internal light. The ceilings were impossibly high, and the windows looked out not on pipes, but on the roiling, beautiful storms of the gas giant below. Nobles of the Cathar court, tall, slender, and radiating an effortless arrogance, lined the main hall. They stared as Alex was hauled through, a piece of human filth, a stain on their pristine world. Their disgust was palpable, a physical force in the air. At the far end of the hall, standing before the massive, data-streaming map of the siege, were two figures. The first was Rel Corvus, the Grand Chancellor of the Empire. He was an old Cathar, his skin a pale noble gray, his robes immaculate. He observed Alex's approach with an expression of profound boredom, as if observing an insect. The second figure was the Empress. Saris Cathara was young, younger than she had any right to be to rule a galactic empire. But she wore her power like armor. Her silver-white hair was bound in intricate braids of state, and her dark blue eyes held the cold fire of a dying star. Today, though, that fire was banked. She looked tired, bone-tired. The guards forced Alex to his knees before the dais. "Your Majesty," Alex said, deciding a little groveling might be prudent. "This is a real honor, but your boys were a little rough on the jacket. I'd like to file a formal complaint." Rel Corvus's lip curled. "Silence the human." "No," Saris said. Her voice was quiet, but it cut through the vast hall like a knife. The ambient noise of the court ceased. She stepped down from the dais, her ceremonial robes sweeping the floor. She stopped just before Alex. "Alex Ward," she said, her voice low. "You fixed my world once." "Your Majesty, I think you have mistaken me for a plumber," Alex began, the old lie automatic. "The Planetary Shield Corps," she interrupted, her gaze unwavering. 5 years ago, the cascade failure in the primary stabilizers, a collective, sharp intake of breath hissed through the assembled court. This was a secret, a deep imperial shame. Rel Corvus's eyes widened, his gaze snapping from Saris to Alex with a newfound, venomous interest. "That was an accident," Saris continued. "This is not—" She gestured to the main map. Dozens of red icons representing the enemy fleet surrounded the golden icon of Aurelian. Several sectors of the shield map were flickering, failing. "They are inside our systems. They are using code I have never seen. But it feels familiar to the logs from the incident 5 years ago. They are tearing Aurelian apart from the inside. Piece by piece, I am asking you, Alex Ward, fix my world again." Alex looked from her tired, desperate eyes to the hostile faces of the court. He saw Rel Corvus, who looked at him as if he were a disease. "Your Majesty," Alex said slowly, getting the strange feeling he was standing on a trapdoor. "With all due respect, I am a coffee pot repairman. You have thousands of engineers, warriors. Why me?" "Because they are failing," Saris said. "And because I know you did it before." Alex was about to argue, to demand an impossible fee, to try and squirm his way out of this. But before he could speak, Saris did something that shattered 1,000 years of Cathar tradition. In front of her entire court, her Grand Chancellor, and her royal guard, Empress Saris Cathara, ruler of 100 worlds, knelt. She did not bow. She did not prostrate. She dropped to one knee, a warrior's gesture of fealty, placing her fate in the hands of the human kneeling before her. The silence in the hall was absolute. It was so profound it was a sound in itself. This was not just an insult to the court. It was sacrilege. The Divine Empress did not kneel, especially not to a human. Alex felt his heart hammer against his ribs. The jokes died in his throat. This was no longer a job. This was an execution, one way or another. "Get up," he hissed, his voice dropping the sarcastic drawl, revealing the cold steel beneath it. "Your Majesty, get up. You have no idea what you're doing. This is bad for business." "I will not," Sarah said, her eyes locked on his, ignoring the waves of horror radiating from her court. "Not until you agree. Your Majesty." Rel Corvus finally found his voice. It was shaking with rage. He strode forward, his face a mask of pale fury. "This display is unnecessary. The creature is a servant, nothing more. He will obey." He turned his venomous gaze on Alex. "It will do as it is commanded, or it will be spaced." "He is not a servant," Sarah said, still kneeling. "He is our only chance." "I'm competent," Alex said, his voice flat. He met Rel's gaze. The mask was gone. "But she's right. I'm not a servant. And loyalty. That costs extra. But seeing the look on your face right now, I might consider a discount." Before Rel could order Alex's death, a massive tremor rocked the entire spire. It was not a distant vibration this time. It was a direct impact. A massive crystal chandelier, a ton of priceless art, shattered on the marble floor. A red hologram flared to life above the tactical map. "Warning," an automated voice boomed. "Shield Sector 9 failed. Repeat, Sector 9 failed." On the map, the dark, angular ships of the enemy fleet converged on the new gap. A single, blindingly bright lance of energy shot from the lead vessel. It did not hit the spire. It was aimed lower. The holofeed switched to a live view from the Undercity. The beam struck Residential Tower 47. There was no explosion, just a silent cry of collapsing physics. The tower, home to 500,000 souls, humans and aliens, just dissolved. It vaporized, along with the 4 blocks surrounding it. The shockwave of the displaced atmosphere shattered every window for a mile. The feed is cut to static. The siege was over. The invasion had begun. Alex's hands clenched into fists. He had seen that before. That was not a plasma weapon. That was a contained antimatter lance. War crime level technology. Saris rose to her feet. The tiredness was gone, replaced by a cold, terrifying fury. "Grand Chancellor," she snapped, "secure the spire. Get our fleets to intercept you up. I want those ships burned from my sky." "Majesty," Rel sputtered, still reeling from the shield failure. "The human, he must be contained. He is a security risk." "The human is with me," Saris commanded. She turned to Alex, her face a pale, determined mask. She held out a small, crystal data cylinder. It pulsed with a deep, internal light. "This is my personal authority. It will grant you access to everything. The deep core, the command protocols, the systems that even I am forbidden from touching." Alex looked at the cylinder, then at her. "You're giving me the keys to the kingdom, to the weapon that's currently being turned against you. You know what you're asking." "I do." "If I get this wrong," Alex said, taking the cylinder. It was warm to the touch. "If I make one mistake, or if I am the saboteur everyone in this city, from you to the guy who sells noodles on Deck 5, everyone falls into the storm." "I know," Sarah said. Her voice did not waver. 5 years ago, you saved Aurelian. You fixed my world, but it is broken again, in a much deeper way." She stepped closer, her voice dropping so only he could hear it. "You fixed my world, Alex Ward. Now you must fix me." The Aurelian core was not a room. It was a cathedral. They descended in a silent, pressurized grav lift, leaving the pristine crystal spires of the palace far above. Alex was flanked by the 2 obsidian-armored royal guards, and followed by a trio of trembling Cathar core engineers, the highest-ranking technicians in the Empire. Their pale gray skin had taken on a sickly, greenish tint. The lift doors opened onto a vast, spherical chamber. Alex's feet met a suspended walkway of translucent crystal. Below, and all around them, was the Heart Forge. It contained a star, a sphere of swirling, molten gold energy, impossibly bright, held in a magnetic cradle that sang a deep, vibrating bass note that Alex felt in his teeth. Floating around this miniature sun were hundreds of massive, slate-gray plates, the shield emitters. They danced in a slow, precise, and utterly complex orbit, weaving and tiling to form the invisible, city-wide barrier. This was the place fewer than 10 living Cathar had ever been allowed to see. The engineers stepped out with ritualistic reverence. Alex Ward came out sniffing the air. "Smells like a burned-out transformer," he said. "And someone's been using a non-standard coolant. You'll get crystallization in the tertiary pipes." The lead engineer, an old Cathar named Vorl, died. He stared at Alex, his mouth slightly open. "The coolant is a state secret." "How could you—" "I can smell it," Alex said impatiently. He brushed past them, walking along the suspended path with a confidence that was deeply unnerving. He didn't look at the star. He looked at the conduits. He walked like he owned the place. Because, in a way, he did. "The resonance is off," Alex muttered, more to himself than to them. He leaned over the railing, staring into the blinding maelstrom. "The shield plates are hesitant. The timing is off by 3 picoseconds." "Impossible," Vorl snapped. His professional pride stung. "Our instruments show full sync." "Your instruments are looking for a break," said Alex. He held up the crystal data cylinder Saris had given him. "I'm looking for a lie." He slotted the cylinder into a terminal at the edge of the abyss. The holographic interface that sprang to life was not the simple display from his shop. This was a flowing river of pure, golden data, the raw language of the core itself. The engineers stayed back, as if afraid the terminal would bite. Alex's fingers didn't just type. They danced. They conducted. He plunged his hands into the holographic code, pulling streams apart, twisting them, holding them up to the light of the core. The engineers watched in horrified awe. The human was not reading the core's language. He was speaking it. "There," Alex said, his voice hardening. He isolated a single elegant algorithm. "Sector 9, the failure point." "It looks perfect," a younger engineer whispered. "It is," Alex said. "It's a perfect instruction to fail. It's not broken. It's a logic bomb." He traced the code's origin. It was buried deep, masked by layers of false protocols. It was designed not to trigger a system-wide alarm, but to look like a simple, cascading overload exactly like the one he had fixed 5 years ago. "This is sabotage," Alex said flatly. "A traitor," Vorl breathed, his face paling further. "It must be. But who to write code that mimics the ancient flaw? It would take a master, someone with knowledge almost equal to the first builders. Or equal to me," Alex thought, his stomach tightening. Someone had taken his patch, his brilliant, elegant, human solution, and had turned it inside out. They had weaponized his own signature, his private communicator, an old-fashioned audio-only device he'd built himself and shielded from all Imperial scanners, buzzed in his pocket. He turned his back on the engineers, feigning a cough. "1 second, fellas," he said, activating the link. "Gotta check my messages. Might be a sale on coffee." "If you're looking for coffee, you're in the wrong part of the galaxy. Sunshine." A woman's cheerful voice crackled in his ear. "How's the view from the penthouse?" "Tamsin. The timing is terrible, as usual," Alex whispered, his voice tight. Hey, I'm the one who's trapped, Tamsin Gray replied. She was broadcasting from the cargo bay of her impounded freighter, the Stray Dog, currently locked down in the Undercity's main docking bay. Tamsin was the only person alive Alex considered a friend. A smuggler with a heart of, well, not gold, maybe silver plate. She was cheerful, dangerously competent, and the only other human in this city who knew a fraction of his past. The whole city's on lockdown, Alex. They're shooting people in the streets. This is not the quiet get in, get out supply run you promised me. Plans change, Alex said, watching the engineers argue over his findings. What do you have? Other than a sudden desire to be on a different planet, Tamsin's voice lost its humor. I have the info you wanted. That side deal I was setting up, the one with the surplus Imperial weapon parts, it's bigger than I expected. The buyer was routing the payment through a military-grade shell corporation. I cracked it. It's not just parts, Alex. It's a full-on arms deal. They're selling patrol routes, shield frequencies, and the buyer. It's linked to a name you and I both know. Alex felt a jolt of ice in his veins. Who? Hyperion Dynamics, Tamsin said. Alex closed his eyes. Hyperion, the private military corporation. The ones who had supplied the weapons were the ones who had funded the attack. The ones who had burned his world to ash. And, Tamsin continued, the seller's account, it's not some low-level quartermaster. Permission goes back to Cathar High Command. Really high, Alex. Like steeple high. Rel Corvus, Alex breathed. I didn't say it. But yeah, it looks like your Grand Chancellor is selling his own city to the highest bidder, and the bidder is the same monster we've been hunting. Stay on your ship, Tamsin, Alex said. His voice a low command. Lock it down. Trust no one, especially not the local authorities. Way ahead of you, Sunshine. Just try not to get yourself killed. You still owe me for that last run. The line clicked off. Alex turned back to the core, his mind racing. This was not just a siege. It was a hostile takeover, orchestrated from the inside by Rel and funded by the very people Alex had sworn to destroy. He was interrupted by one of the Obsidian guards. The Empress summons you, the synthesized voice boomed. The Council of Nobles is in session. Great, Alex muttered, pushing away from the console. Politics, my favorite. The Council of Nobles was a chamber designed to intimidate. It was a vast amphitheater of black marble, where the 200 most powerful Cathar in the Empire sat in tiered rows, looking down on a single, isolated podium. Ceres sat on a throne of pale crystal, elevated above them all. But today she looked small. Rel Corvus was on his feet, his voice rolling across the chamber. He was not shouting. He was reasoning, his tone full of regretful duty. A human, he was saying, a species known for its volatility, its base cunning. Aloud into the sacred core. Your Majesty, this is not just a breach of protocol. It is a profanity. The ancestors weep. A murmur of agreement rose through the nobles. The human found the sabotage. Grand Chancellor, Ceres countered, her voice ringing with cold authority. Something your pureblood engineers missed for weeks. He found what he likely planted. Rel shot back, his control slipping. We are under attack. This is a time for strength, for purity. We must isolate the alien elements. Quarantine the Undercity. Place the human in secure detention, and let my appointee, Engineer Prime Voral, take over the core. Alex, standing in the entranceway, almost laughed. Voral was the old engineer who was, at this very second, probably still trying to figure out how Alex had smelled the coolant. A fine idea, Chancellor, Alex said, entering the room. The 200 nobles turned as one, their faces a collective mask of aristocratic disgust. Silence, human, Rel roared. Alex Ward, Saris said, cutting him. Report. He's right, Your Majesty, Alex said, strolling down the central aisle, ignoring the glares. I am a security risk. I'm also the only one in this city who knows how to read the code that's killing you. The sabotage is deep, it's elegant, and it's tied directly to the attack fleet. They're working together. Lies, a noble shouted. He covers for his own kind. My kind, Alex said, stopping at the podium. Alex said, my kind are currently being vaporized in your slums. Your lordship, the ones you left undefended. Before Rel could respond, a piercing alarm blared through the chamber. A new hologram. This one, a technical schematic of an orbital defense platform, flared to life above Saris. It was flashing bright red. What is this? Saris demanded. An aide rushed in. Majesty, it's the orbital platform Epsilon. The one protecting the Spire's upper quadrant, it's overloading. The enemy fleet is concentrating fire on it, and the internal reactor is going critical. Rel Corvus smiled. A perfect example. Our systems are failing under this human's care. Vorel, get your engineers to fix it. The old engineer, Vorel, appeared on a secondary screen, his face slick with sweat. Majesty, we cannot. The overload is creating a feedback loop. We cannot stop it. It will detonate in 3 minutes. Panic rippled through the chamber. Epsilon platform exploding would rip a hole in the upper shields, leaving the palace itself exposed. This is what your trust has wrought, Empress, Rel thundered. A pure-blood engineer would have anticipated this. No, he wouldn't have, Alex said, his voice bored. He walked to the main console, pushing the frantic Cathar aide aside. Because he'd be looking at the reactor. The problem isn't the reactor, you morons. It's the targeting array. He dipped his hands into holographic controls. The enemy is feeding energy into your array, and your system is trying to fire it back. But the saboteur's logic bomb is blocking the discharge port. It's a pressure cooker. You're trying to put out a grease fire with water. That's impossible, Vorel stammered from the screen. Watch me, Alex said. He didn't try to close the reactor. He didn't try to fix the logic bomb. He bypassed it. His fingers flew, rerouting petawatts of energy. I need an open port. Now, give me auxiliary sanitation. What? The aide squeaked. The sewage ejection port. You idiot. Give it to me. The aide, terrified, ceded control. Alex smiled, a thin, feral grin. Okay, Epsilon, he whispered. Let's take out the trash. He rerouted the entire reactor overload, a blast capable of cracking a moon through the platform's waste disposal system. In the vast, hollow display of the space battle, the nobles watched as orbital platform Epsilon, under heavy fire, suddenly vented a blindingly white spear of pure energy from its underside. The beam was not aimed at the enemy fleet. It was aimed at nothing. It was a raw, uncontrolled dump of power. But the red warnings on the schematic vanished. The reactor warnings faded. The platform was stable. And, quite by accident, the beam of raw sewage and plasma vaporized 3 enemy frigates that had been moving in underneath it. The chamber was silent. Alex leaned back from the console and crossed his arms. He looked at the 200 stunned, priceless faces of the Cathar nobility. There, Alex said, his voice dripping with mock casualness. A human just saved your fancy palace, and your orbital cannon, using a toilet pipe, while you were all arguing about purity. Any other questions? The moment of humanity. Fuck yeah, hung in the air. thick and undeniable. Saris hid a small, sharp smile. Rel Corvus's face was a shade of purple. Alex found deeply satisfying. "Get back to the core," Saris ordered him, her voice all business. "Find me a traitor." As Alex turned to leave, he felt her eyes on him. She was no longer just suspicious. She was intrigued. He spent the next 10 hours in the core, diving deeper into the saboteur's code than he had ever gone before. The enemy fleet outside was relentless, changing tactics. They stopped the brute force attacks and began using small, high-energy pulses, probing the shield at different frequencies, testing for harmonic weaknesses. It was a systematic, intelligent, and deeply familiar pattern. "Ryland's pattern breach," Alex whispered, his blood running cold. It was a deep space warfare doctrine, developed by the Terran colonial fleet. Humans designed it for use against vastly superior alien technology. This was not just a Cathar betrayal. Hyperion was here. They were running the attack, using human tactics. And Rel was just the key to opening the door. And then he found it, buried beneath a dozen layers of the saboteur's malware. He found a line of code that did not belong. It was not Cathar. It was not the new malware. It was old. It was his. It was the back door. 5 years ago. He had not just fixed the core. He had been a different man then, consumed by a cold, righteous fury. He had seen the Cathar's arrogance, their disdain for the lesser species they ruled. And in the heart of their power, he had planted a seed, a hidden command pathway, known only to him. A back door that, if activated, would give him ultimate control. He had left it there, just in case the galaxy needed one less arrogant empire. The saboteur had not found his back door. Not yet. The new malware was wrapped around it, like a snake coiled around a sleeping dragon. Completely unaware of what it was touching, a bead of sweat ran down his temple. The logic bombs, the mimicry of his original fix. It was all a distraction. The saboteur was not his equal. The saboteur was a clumsy amateur who had stumbled into Alex's own kill zone. But Alex's presence had been requested. He had been returned to the scene of his original sin. Was this all a test, Alex? Saris's voice came over the private comm. She was watching him from her command center. You've stopped. What did you find? His face was a mask of concentration. He skillfully walled off the back door, burying it even deeper, hiding it from her, from the saboteur, from everyone. Nothing. He lied, his voice perfectly even. Just a nasty piece of recursive code. Sloppy. Very Cathar. No wonder they got in. I'm clearing it now. He felt a pang of guilt. She had trusted him. She had knelt. And he had just lied to her face to protect a weapon he himself had built. Before Saris could reply, the entire core chamber jumped. A massive shockwave hit the city, so powerful it physically moved the suspended heart forge in its magnetic cradle. The golden star flickered. Majesty! Alex yelled into the comm. What was that? That was a ground-level hit. Her voice came back, strained, broken. They've breached the lower atmospheric shields, the ones I diverted power from to protect the spire. Where did it hit? Alex demanded, his heart pounding. A new report flashed on his console. A damage report. Sector Human Residential, District 22. The area around his old shop, the place where Tamsin's ship was docked. The casual, witty repairman vanished. He was replaced by something cold and ancient. Alex slammed his fist into the crystal console. The force of the blow, amplified by his rage, cracked the interface. The engineers cried out in alarm. Damn them! Alex's voice was not a shout. It was a low, guttural roar that echoed in the vast chamber. They aren't just trying to win. They're culling. They're targeting humans. They're targeting the weak. The Obsidian guards took a step away from him. The man who had been a sarcastic, greasy mechanic was suddenly radiating an aura of violence, so pure it was tangible. The engineers saw a madman. The guards saw a soldier. For a long, terrible moment, Alex wanted to unleash it. He wanted to find his back door, activate it, and rip the enemy fleet from the sky, even if it took half of Aurelian with it. The old, familiar hatred, the one he had tried to bury under jokes and grease, flooded back. He fought it down. He forced his hands to unclench. "Get me a secure line to the Empress," he bid out. "Now." Later, the immediate crisis stabilized. He found himself in a small observation room near the core. The city's alarms were a distant, mournful song. He was drinking something that was supposed to be coffee, but tasted like burnt cinders. The door hissed open. It was Saris. She was alone. No guards. She looked at the cracked console in the corner. Then his bruised knuckles. "Your engineers are terrified of you," she said. Her voice was soft. "They'll get over it," Alex said, not looking at her. He stared out the window at the distant, beautiful, deadly storms. "Who are you, Alex?" she asked. "I'm the guy fixing your world, Your Majesty. You said it yourself." "A repairman did not save my orbital platform with a sewage pipe," she countered. "A repairman does not speak the language of the core, and a repairman does not look at a battlefield with such familiarity." She moved to stand beside him. He could smell the faint, ozone-like scent of her perfume. "That rage, back in the core," she said. "I have seen it before, my father. After the Battle of Xylos, it is the anger of a man who has lost everything." Alex took a slow sip of the terrible coffee. He kept his mask firmly in place. "I just really hate bad engineering, Your Majesty, and genocide. It's messy, bad for business." She did not smile. She reached out, as if to touch his arm, but stopped herself. "They are not just lines of code to you. Are they the people in the Undercity?" "No one deserves to be vaporized while they're arguing over the price of noodles," he said, the image of his Pikithard client flashing in his mind. "I believe you," Saris said. "But I also believe you are hiding something. A man who jokes so much is usually covering great pain." She was too close. She saw too much. He needed her to leave. "With respect, Majesty," he said, turning to face her, his voice flat and cold. "You don't pay me to unpack my emotional baggage. You pay me to keep this city from falling into the clouds. Let me get back to work." He expected her to be offended, to retreat into her imperial shell. Instead, her eyes softened with a sadness that mirrored his own. "Very well, wanderer, but you cannot hide from yourself forever." She left him alone in silent silence. Another 6 hours he worked. He pushed Tamsin, Hyperion, and Saris's perceptive gaze from his mind. He focused on the enemy, the betrayal. If Rel was the seller, who was the buyer inside? Who was the military commander coordinating the shield drops with the enemy fleet? He followed the data trail. The saboteur's code was clumsy, but the timing was perfect. The logic bombs detonated at the exact moment the enemy fleet probed those sectors. That required a constant, real-time data link. He searched for it. He hunted through secure military channels, diplomatic back alleys, and encrypted commercial networks. And finally, he found it. It was a ghost channel, piggybacked onto the city's atmospheric sensor array. A tiny, almost undetectable data stream. It was routing from a terminal in the High Command strategy room to a single, heavily encrypted node outside the city. a node that belonged to the enemy flagship. He stared at the screen, the pieces clicking into place. He saw the name of the Cathar officer whose credentials were being used to send the data. It was not Rel. It was General Kraxos, the commander of Aurelian's entire defense fleet, the most trusted military officer in the Empire. Alex leaned back. The betrayal was not just in the palace. It was in the fleet. It was everywhere. He had the proof. Now, he had to bring it to a woman who had just admitted she did not fully trust him, and who, he now realized, he was desperately, foolishly, trying to protect. Alex did not report his findings on General Kraxos. Not yet. He needed to see. He needed to talk to Tamsin. The data trail was cold, abstract. The image of Residential Tower 47 dissolving was not. He left the core, flashing Ceres's crystal cylinder at the stunned engineers and the Obsidian guards. The authority it carried was absolute. He strode to the main Spire transport hub, a place of silent, efficient travel for the nobility. He ignored the levitating platforms and keyed his command into the main dispatch terminal. Undercity, Docking Bay 9. Now, he ordered. The Cathar attendant gaped. Sir, that sector is a level 5 disaster zone. It is quarantined. I am core priority, Alex said, his voice flat, daring the attendant to argue. I am investigating a system-wide failure that originated in that sector. Get me a transport. The attendant, his face pale, complied. The grav shuttle descended, leaving the clean, ozone-scented air of the Spire behind. It plunged into the smoke. The Undercity was unrecognizable. The red emergency lighting was still flashing, painting the dense smog in apocalyptic strokes. The air was thick with the smell of pulverized metal, vaporized organics, and the sharp, chemical stench of the antimatter residue. His transport landed on a buckled platform near Bay 9. Rel's peacekeeper troops were already there, forming a hard perimeter, their silver and black armor a stark contrast to the imperial blue. They were not rescuing, they were contained. Alex stepped out. The crystal cylinder held high. The peacekeeper captain moved to block him, then saw the Empress's personal seal. He hesitated, his face a mask of conflict. Core business, Alex snapped. My orders are to inspect the integrity of the docking bay's energy grid. Do not interfere. The captain reluctantly stepped aside. Alex moved through the chaos, his mechanic's jacket blending in perfectly. The stray dog was where Tamsin had left it, but the blast wave had been close. The ship's landing gear was crumpled on one side, and the port hull was scorched black. He found Tamsin in the cockpit, a plasma welder in one hand, and a bottle of something potent in the other. She was humming a bleak, off-key tune. "You look terrible," she said without turning. "And you smell like the Spire, all sterile and self-important." "The ship," Alex said, his eyes scanning the damage. "She'll hold on." "Barely," Tamsin said, finally turning. Her usual grin was gone, replaced by a tight, angry line. But the bay doors melted shut. "We're going nowhere, Alex. This just turned from a lockdown into a tomb. And what the hell was that beam that wasn't Cathar?" "Hyperion dynamics," Alex said. Tamsin dropped the welder. It clanged loudly on the metal deck. "You're sure?" "Antimatter lances. Ryland's pattern breach tactics. It's them." Tamsin stared at him, her eyes wide with a shared, terrible understanding. "Hyperion," she whispered. "Here." "Alex, that means—" "I know what it means," he said. He sat down heavily in the co-pilot's chair, the adrenaline from the past 12 hours finally draining away, leaving a cold, hollow dread. I ran that trace, like I said, Tamsin continued, her voice low, intense. The Cathar connection. Rel Corvus. I dug deeper. I wanted to know why. Why would he sell his city? It's not just money. Alex, she lifted a file on her console. It was old, corrupted, and marked with a Terran colonial fleet insignia. This is from the Cygnus 7 inquiry, she said softly. Alex flinched. The name hit him like a physical blow. Cygnus 7, the colony, the massacre, home. What about it? He bit out. The attack on Cygnus was flawless. Hyperion's fleet knew every defense gap, every patrol route, every civilian evacuation pattern. The colonial fleet never understood how. They blamed a security leak. She pointed to a single, encrypted data packet embedded in the file. I found this. It's the security leak. A data sale, authorized by the Cathar High Command. They sold us. Alex, they sold Cygnus 7 to Hyperion Dynamics for mining rights in the Outer Veil. The cockpit was silent, save for the distant scream of sirens. Alex stared at the screen, the pieces of his broken past slamming into his present. He had always known Hyperion was the hand that held the knife. He never knew a Cathar had pointed them where to strike. That's why you're here, isn't it? Tamsin asked, her voice full of a dawning horror. This isn't a coincidence. You didn't just end up on Aurelian 5 years ago. Alex looked at his hands. They were stained with grease, but he could feel the phantom sensation of a rifle grip. No, he said, his voice barely a whisper. It wasn't. After Cygnus, after I saw what they did, I hunted them. I followed money, data. It took me 3 years, but I found the trail. It led from Hyperion right here, to this city. He looked up, his eyes dead. I didn't come to Aurelian to hide. Tam, I came for revenge. Alex. That accidental fix 5 years ago, the one that made me the Empress's secret little hero, it was a lie. I hunted for that flaw. I needed a way in. I needed to get into the core. He leaned forward, the confession pouring out of him, a poison he had held for too long. And when I was in there, when I had my hands on the heart of their world, I did more than just fix it. I left a present, a back door, a kill switch, Tamsin, my own private line into the Heart Forge, a command that would overload the gravitational anchors and drop this entire city into the storm. Tamsin recoiled. Gods! Alex! You were going to destroy it. Everyone. All these people. They were complicit. Alex surged to his feet, the old cold fury returning. They traded my family, my daughter, my world, for a rock I am going to. He stopped. The image of Ceres, kneeling before him, her eyes, desperate, flashed in his mind. The image of the old Peaktharg, arguing over 20 credits. It's complicated now, he finished, slumping back into the chair. Yeah, Tamsin said, her voice shaking. I'd say so. You have the ultimate revenge weapon. But the girl you're trying to save is sitting right on top of it. And the monsters who killed your family are the ones knocking at the door. That's not complicated, Alex. That's a cosmic joke. He had to go back. He had to know how deep the rot went. I have to go. They'll know I'm gone. What about your back door? Tamsin asked. It's safe, Alex said. The saboteur hasn't found it. He's not smart enough. He returned to the core, the weight of his past settling on him like a shroud. He plunged his hands back into the golden river of data, his personal fury giving him a terrifying new clarity. He had lied to Tamsin. The saboteur was smart, or at least dangerously observant. As Alex traced the malware again, he realized the truth. The saboteur, General Kraxos wasn't just mimicking the 5-year-old flaw. He had found the classified logs of Alex's original fix. He had found the elegant, human-written code that had saved the city, and he was weaponizing it. Kraxos was using Alex's own complex algorithms, twisting them, turning his life-saving patches into time bombs. The logic bombs weren't clumsy. They were his. They were corrupted reflections of his own genius. The internal conflict hit him like a physical shock. He was fighting himself. To stop Kraxos, he would have to dismantle his own 5-year-old work. He would have to explain, in detail, to Ceres and her engineers, why that code was vulnerable, how it could be twisted. He would have to admit that he, a human mechanic, had rewritten the heart of their empire. If he confessed, Ceres would know the depth of his connection to the core. She would know he had been inside her systems in a way no one ever had. She would know he had the power to do exactly what Kraxos was doing. And worse, she would never trust him. Rel would have him executed. If he stayed silent, he was letting Kraxos continue to use his own work to tear the city apart. He was trapped. He had to fight the saboteur with one hand, while using the other to hide the fact that they were both using the same playbook. While Alex wrestled with his code, Ceres wrestled with her conscience. The reports from Undercity were horrific. Rel Corvus had assured her the peacekeepers were maintaining order. The refugee reports flooding her private terminal told a different story: mass arrests, summary executions, and brutal suppression, all aimed at the non-Cathar populations. She made a decision. Commander Iriath, she told the woman standing by her side. Commander Iriath was the new head of her personal guard, appointed after the previous captain had been implicated in the Spire's security failures. Iriath was a tall Cathar female, her face marked by a ritual scar that signified her absolute, unbreakable loyalty to the Empress. She was a traditionalist, but she was not a zealot. She valued honor above purity. And she did not trust Alex Ward. Majesty. Ready, my transport. A civilian shuttle. No markings. You and I are going to Undercity. Iriath's eyes widened. Majesty, that is suicide. The Chancellor has forbidden. The Chancellor does not command me. Iriath. And I will not be a queen who hides in a crystal tower while her people burn. The ruins of Sector 22 were worse than the holofeeds. Ceres walked through the streets, her face veiled, Iriath at her side, her hand never leaving her plasma pistol. The smell of death was overwhelming. She saw Catharan humans, huddled together in makeshift shelters, sharing scraps of food. She saw the simmering resentment in their eyes, and the open hatred in the faces of Rel's peacekeepers. An old human woman, her face covered in soot, saw Ceres pause to look at a destroyed hablock. The woman limped forward. "They just left us," the woman whispered, her voice rattling. The shields pulled the shields back to protect the spire. They call us expendable, you know, acceptable losses. Iriath moved to push the woman back. But Ceres held up a hand. "Are we, Empress?" the woman asked, her voice suddenly strong. She had seen the Empress's eyes, recognized the authority beneath the veil. "Are we just acceptable?" Ceres had no answer. She had given the order to consolidate power to the upper shields. She had done it to protect the core, the command center. But standing in the ruins, her tactical decision felt like a moral failing. "The Empire has failed you," Ceres said, her voice hoarse. "I have failed you." The admission hung in the smoky air. The old woman just stared, her anger giving way to a profound, weary surprise. When Ceres returned to the spire, the comfortable detachment of her throne room felt obscene. The rot was not just Rel. It was the system she led. She summoned Alex to the main tactical room. She needed answers. She needed the traitor. Alex arrived, flanked by his 2 obsidian guards. Rel Corvus was already there, with Iriath. The Grand Chancellor was pacing, his face livid. "Your Majesty, your excursion was an act of profound irresponsibility," Rel was shouting. "It has undermined my authority and given hope to the human insurgents." "They are not insurgents, Rel," Sarah snapped, her newfound anger burning cold. "They are citizens, and you are treating them like animals." "They are infected. He is the proof." Rel pointed a trembling finger at Alex. "His presence has brought this doom upon us." Alex ignored him. "Your Majesty, I have traced the internal sabotage, the data link between the enemy fleet and our city. It's coming from High Command." He was about to say Kraxos's name. He was about to expose the entire plot, and then it happened. The 2 obsidian guards, flanking Alex, the 8-foot-tall symbols of Imperial loyalty, moved as one. They were not aiming at Alex. They snapped their plasma rifles up and aimed them directly at Empress Saris. Commander Iriath was a blur. "Majesty, down!" she roared, tackling Saris, shoving her off the dais and behind the crystal throne. But Alex was faster. The sarcastic mechanic evaporated. In his place was a creature of pure, lethal instinct. In the split second, the guards were acquiring their target. Alex moved. He didn't reach for a weapon. He grabbed the heavy, solid crystal data slate from the tactical table and hurled it like a discus. It shattered against the lead guard's featureless helmet, the impact staggering him simultaneously. Alex's other hand shot out, not to attack, but to a small, unassuming environmental control panel on the wall. He slammed his open palm against it. He wasn't just pushing a button. He was interfacing. The room's main lights, the humming terminals, the holographic map, everything died. The heavy magnetic locks on the chamber doors slammed shut with a deafening thud. And in the sudden, terrifying darkness, lit only by the red emergency strips, the 2 obsidian guards froze. Their armor, a marvel of Imperial technology, seized instantly. The faint blue lights in their joints sputtered and died. "Network override." Alex's voice cut through the dark. It was cold, precise, and utterly devoid of fear. "Armor diagnostic systems locked." He moved through the red gloom. Rel was cowering behind a console. Saris and Iriath were scrambling to their feet. Alex walked past the first frozen guard, plucked the rifle from his paralyzed grip, and approached the second, who was still trying to aim, his muscles fighting his own armor. With a brutal efficiency that spoke of long practice, Alex disarmed him, broke his wrist with a sharp crack, and slammed the butt of the rifle into the guard's helmet, knocking him unconscious inside his own suit. He hit the environmental panel again. The main lights flickered back on. The entire event had taken less than 4 seconds. The chamber was a wreck. Saris was breathing hard, pistol in hand. Rel was pale, hyperventilating. The 2 8-foot guards were immobile statues. One locked in place, the other slumped. Commander Iriath, however, was staring at Alex. Her pistol was still smoking. She had fired, but her shot had been a second too late. Alex had been faster than a plasma bolt. "The armor systems," Iriath said, her voice a low, dangerous rumble. "They are on a closed, encrypted network. They cannot be overridden from a simple climate panel." Alex casually tossed the rifle onto the table. "I tinker," he said, the old, weak excuse sounding pathetic even to him. "Read the manuals. Found a bug." Iriath's eyes narrowed. "No mere repairman moves like that. No tinkerer knows the root commands for the Imperial Guard's armor. You did not hack them. You commanded them. Who are you?" The assassination attempt was a disaster for Ceres. Rel Corvus, recovering his composure, moved swiftly. He convened an emergency session of the Council of Nobles, broadcasting the footage of the attack from the tactical room. "She is attacked in her own throne room," Rel's voice thundered across the amphitheater. "Her own Imperial Guard, compromised. She cannot even protect herself, let alone this city. Her reliance on this alien repairman has blinded her. He failed to stop the attack. He is the source of this chaos. He played on their fear, their xenophobia, their shock. He proposed a motion temporary supreme military authority to stabilize the city, purge the traitors, and secure the Empress. The terrified, disorganized council passed it. 70% in favor. Rel Corvus was now, effectively, Aurelian's military dictator. His first act was to formalize the lockdown. He declared martial law in the Undercity, targeting the human sector above all. "A security measure," he announced, "to root out the alien terrorists responsible for the attempt on the Empress's life." It was a purge. Alex knew it. Ceres knew it. Alex found Tamsin. She had gotten the Stray Dog's basic systems back online and was using her smuggling routes to move medical supplies between survivor camps. "This is bad, Alex," she said, as they moved through a dark, dripping maintenance tunnel. "Rel's peacekeepers are everywhere. They're not arresting people. They're disappearing." "I know," Alex said. He was armed now, carrying the plasma pistol he'd taken from Iriath's arsenal. "I have to see. I have to know how far he's going." They emerged into a small plaza in what used to be the Sector 22 market. It was now a processing area. Peacekeeper troops were herding humans and other aliens into transport shuttles. And then Alex saw it. In an alley, away from the main group, 3 peacekeepers had a human civilian, an old man, a noodle vendor Alex recognized. They had him on his knees. They were demanding names. The old man just shook his head, weeping. One of the soldiers, a big, arrogant Cathar, laughed. He kicked the man in the ribs. "He's just human trash," the soldier said, his voice carrying in the quiet plaza. "Filthy, stubborn, just like on Cygnus 7. We should have burned them all. That name. Again." The world dissolved for Alex, the sarcastic mechanic, the guilt-ridden engineer, the reluctant savior. They all vanished. The Cygnus 7 soldier took their place. He was moving before Tamsin could react. He crossed the plaza in 3 seconds. The first soldier saw him, raised his rifle. Alex shattered his arm at the elbow, took the rifle and put the butt of it through the soldier's visor. The second soldier turned, firing. Alex was already inside his guard, the plasma blast searing the air where he'd been. He drove his fist into the Cathar's throat, crushing his larynx, and kneed him in the chest, cracking his armor. The third soldier, the one who had spoken, scrambled back, raising his pistol. Alex grabbed him by the throat and slammed him against the wall, lifting him off the ground. The Cathar choked, his legs kicking. Alex's vision was red. He wasn't seeing a Cathar soldier. He was seeing a Hyperion Marine in black armor, standing over the smoking ruins of a school. He was hearing the screams. He could smell the ash. His free hand, the one that could talk to machines, began to glow with a faint, terrible energy. He wasn't just going to choke him. He was going to burn him from the inside out. "Alex, stop," Tamsin's voice, shouting his name. She was there, pulling on his arm, her weight useless against his rage. "Alex, look at me. This isn't him. This isn't Cygnus. Don't you dare become them. Don't you dare." Her words, not her strength, broke through. He looked at the terrified purple face of the Cathar. He saw the old man, cowering in the alley. He saw Tamsin, her face a mask of terror. He dropped the soldier. The Cathar collapsed, gasping, scrambling away, dragging his unconscious comrades. Alex stood, shaking. His hand was still tingling. He had almost done it. He had almost become a monster. "Gods, Alex!" Tamsin whispered, grabbing his jacket. "Let's go. Now, before they send more." She dragged him back into the shadows, back to the fragile safety of the stray dog. He sat in the cockpit for an hour, saying nothing. He was ashamed. He was terrified. Not of Rel. Not of Hyperion. He was terrified of the thing inside him that had wanted to kill that soldier. The thing that I had enjoyed. He was lost. A console on Tamsin's dash chirped. Not an official channel. Not a local signal. It was a ghost transmission, routed through a dozen dead-drop servers, bouncing off the enemy fleet itself. "What now?" Tamsin muttered, her nerves frayed. She opened the file. "It's for you, Alex. Encrypted with an old colonial fleet cipher. Yours." Alex looked at the screen. It was text only. "We know who you are. We see your work in the core. You always built better than you knew. When you are ready to finish what you started, the gate will open. Cygnus 7 remembers." He stared at the words. Hyperion. The enemy fleet. They knew. They knew about his past. They knew about Cygnus. And they knew about his back door. They were not just offering him a way out. They were offering him what he had come for 5 years ago. Revenge. The message on Tamsin's console burned itself into Alex's memory. "When you are ready to finish what you started, the gate will open." It was not an offer. It was an activation. Hyperion, Rel, Kraxos, they were not just coordinating. They thought he was on their side. They believed the ghost of Cygnus 7 had finally come to collect his debt. Before he could even process the horrifying implications, the world ended. A deep, bone-jarring thud shook the entire city, not from the outside, but from within. The hum of the core, the background radiation of his life, stuttered. Then came the voice. It was not an automated city alert. It was Rel Corvus, his voice amplified, booming from every speaker in Aurelian, from the spire's crystal halls to the Undercity's dripping tunnels. "Citizens of Aurelian." Rel's voice was smooth, paternal, and utterly terrifying. "For days, we have been betrayed. Betrayed by an enemy without, and an infection within. In the Spire's tactical room, Ceres, Iriath, and the few loyal guards whirled toward the main comms. "Lock him out," Ceres commanded. "Cut his broadcast." The technician's fingers flew. "I cannot, Majesty. He has seized primary control. All channels are locked. He has rooted us out." "Our weakness," Rel's voice continued, a sermon of pure venom, "has been our compassion, our willingness to tolerate the alien, the human, the impure. This tolerance, championed by a weak and blinded Empress, has brought us to ruin." The palace screamed. It was the sound of internal defense cannons, dormant for a century, activating. "He's not just talking," Alex said, his voice deadly quiet, speaking to Tamsin over his private comm. "He's launching the coup. He's taking the city." "No kidding. Sunshine." Tamsin's voice crackled. "His peacekeepers are mobilizing everywhere. They're marching on the spire." "This is not a siege. Alex," Ceres's voice was strained, calling him on the official channel. "It is a civil war. Rel has locked me out of the defense grid. Where are you?" "On my way," Alex said. "No, you're not," Tamsin yelled. "The whole Undercity is exploding." "Wait, oh, gods, Alex. The attack. It's not just the enemy fleet anymore." Off. On the main tactical map in the Spire, new icons flared to life. They were not red enemy signatures. They were silver Cathar defense platforms. And they were turning. aiming not outward, but inward. "He's coordinating with them," Saris whispered, horrified. The city was struck from both sides at once. The enemy fleet hammered the weakened shields from orbit, while Rel's captured cannons, under the command of General Kraxos, began a systematic, brutal purge of the lower decks. Sectors loyal to Ceres, districts with high alien populations, they were targeted and vaporized. The city was being torn apart, the population thrown into a blind panic. "I have sealed the spire," Rel's voice concluded. "The Empress is under my protection, removed from command until the human infection can be purged. Order will be restored. Purity will be restored." "He's lying," Irith growled, drawing her plasma pistol. "He is not protecting us. He is caging us." The heavy crystal doors to the tactical room hissed shut, the magnetic locks slamming home with terminal finality. A moment later, heavy, metallic booms echoed from the hallway. Rel's peacekeepers were trying to burn their way in. "Well," Alex's voice said, cutting through the panic of the tactical room as he finally established a solid link. "The service in this hotel is officially terrible. 1 star, maybe 2. The decor is nice, but the staff is actively trying to kill you." "Alex!" Saris snapped. "Where is Tamsin?" "Stuck in docking bay 9. Same as you're stuck in the throne room," Alex replied. "I need to get to you. You need to get to me. And we all need to get somewhere that isn't here." "The spire is locked down," Irith said, inspecting the door. "They are cutting through. We have perhaps 5 minutes." "Alex," Saris said, her voice low, desperate. "The core. You can still control it. Right? You can stop this." "No," Alex said. The word was flat. "He's locked me out, too. He's smart. He didn't just seize the palace network. He cut the spire's connection to the Heartforge entirely. I'm blind. I can't do anything from here. And neither can you." "Then we are trapped," Saris said, the realization dawning. "No," Alex said. "We're just taking the scenic route." "Irith." "Saris. Get out of the tactical room, now. There is a service conduit behind the main holo projector. It's for maintenance droids. It will be tight, but it leads to the old ventilation shafts. Go." "How do you know that?" Irith demanded. "Because I'm a repairman," Alex said. "I repair things. I notice pipes. Now move." Irith and Saris ripped the panel away as the doors to the tactical room began to glow red from a cutting torch. They scrambled into the dark, dusty shaft just as the doors exploded inward. They were in the guts of the palace. The air was hot, thick with the smell of burning crystal and ozone. "Tamsin." Alex's voice came over Saris's comm, which he had linked to his private channel. "I'm sending you a route. It's going to take you through the spire's laundry facilities." "Laundry," Tamsin panted, the sound of plasma fire close behind her. "Are you kidding me?" "No. It's the only subsystem Rel wouldn't think to lock down. I'm opening the chutes for you. It's going to be a rough ride, but it'll spit you out in the lower concourse. Irith, Saris, you're heading for the same spot. Level 4. Subsection Beta. Go. I'm right behind you." The chase was a burning luxury nightmare. They ran through hallways where priceless tapestries were in flames. They dodged firefights between Rel's silver-armored peacekeepers and the few remaining loyalist Imperial guards in blue. At one point, they hit a dead end. A massive, collapsed statue blocked the hall, and a squad of peacekeepers was rounding the far corner. "Trapped!" Irith yelled, raising her pistol. "Empress, Irith, stand behind me," Alex commanded, his voice changing. The sarcasm was gone. He stepped forward, ignoring the soldiers. He placed his bare hand on a pulsing, crystalline power conduits set into the wall. Saris watched, stunned. Alex closed his eyes. He didn't use a tool. He didn't use an interface. He just pushed. Saris felt it in her teeth, a wave of raw, focused energy. The lights in the entire corridor did not just flicker. They bent. The glowing crystal of the walls flared, the energy within them surging, resonating with him. Down the hall, the peacekeepers cried out. Their plasma rifles sputtered, the energy cells instantly violently draining. The lights in their armor died. Even the magnetic plates in their boots disengaged, sending them clattering to the slick floor, their suits completely inert. Alex opened his eyes, pulling his hand back. A faint, golden energy aura, the same color as the core, danced across his fingertips for a second before fading. He was breathing heavily. "What did you do?" Saris whispered, staring at him. "I asked the palace to turn them off," Alex panted, rubbing his temples. "It's a very polite house. Now let's go before they reboot." Irith stared at him, her face a mask of shock and a new, profound suspicion. "That is not human," she stated. "That is the language of the core." "We can discuss my linguistic skills later," Alex said, already moving. "This way." They met Tamsin in a cloud of steam and hot water in the laundry sorting hub. She tumbled out of a massive chute, soaking wet, covered in soap suds, and holding 2 plasma pistols. "That," Tamsin sputtered, "was the worst water slide ever." "Everyone's a critic," Alex said, pulling her to her feet. "This is Commander Irith. This is the Empress series. Everyone. This is Tamsin. She's our ride." "I'm a smuggler, not a taxi service," Tamsin grumbled, eyeing Irith's armor. "And your ride is currently locked in a burning dock." "Where is the sunshine?" "Down," Alex said. "Rel controls the spire, the military and the comms. He's running the city, but he's not running the slums. Not yet." They fled the spire through a refuse chute, emerging into the choking smog of the Undercity. This was Alex's world. The rules of the spire honor, bloodlines. Purity meant nothing here. The only rule was survival. The human residential sector was a war zone. But it was a resistant war zone. Rel's peacekeepers were trying to establish a perimeter, but the population, a mix of humans, Cathar, and a dozen other lesser species, was fighting back. They were using makeshift barriers, ambushes, and a network of hidden tunnels that Alex himself had helped design. A peacekeeper patrol spotted them. There it's Human and the Empress. An explosion ripped the street apart, cutting them off. A group of humans, their faces covered in soot-stained rags, pulled them into a reinforced basement. "Get in here quick," a man yelled. They tumbled into a crowded, stiflingly hot room. It was filled with humans. Old men, women, children, and a few armed fighters. The air smelled of sweat and fear, but also defiance. The old woman Saris had spoken to earlier was there, bandaging a young man's arm. She looked up, her eyes widening as she recognized Saris, now stripped of her veil and robes, her silver hair matted with grime. A peacekeeper hammered on the reinforced door. "Open up by order of the Chancellor, surrender the fugitives." The humans in the room said nothing. They just formed a silent, human wall in front of Saris and her group. The old woman looked Saris in the eye. "He calls us infection," the woman said, her voice rough. "He calls us weak, but we are still here, and he is not welcome in our home." Saris was speechless. She was the Empress. Her dynasty had oppressed these people for generations. They had been left to die hours ago, and now they were willing to die for her. She looked at the shared, half-empty canteens. She saw a Cathar child, an orphan from a lower-class family, being fed a scrap of protein bar by a human. She saw a Peaky-Tharg and a human, rivals in the market, now standing back-to-back, armed with salvaged plasma rifles. This was a strength Rel Corvus, with all his armies, could never understand. "See?" Alex whispered, leaning against the wall, his voice laced with a bitter, profound pride. "We're not just acceptable losses, Your Majesty. We're stubborn. It's our one redeeming quality." "They are magnificent," Saris whispered back, her eyes shining with tears she refused to let fall. "Yeah, well, magnificent isn't going to win this," Alex said. "Rel has the city, he has guns, and he's talking to the enemy fleet. I have to get control of the defense grid back." "How?" Iriath said, cleaning her pistol. "He's locked you out of the core. We are trapped here." "He's locked me out of the main terminal," Alex corrected. "But Rel's a politician. He's not a technician. He thinks the Spire is the center of the universe. He's moved his command there." "The Sentinel Spire," Saris realized. "The old secondary command hub." "Exactly," Alex said. "It's a fortress, but every fortress has a sewer pipe, and I'm the guy who knows where they all are." His plan was insane. The Sentinel Spire was on the other side of the Undercity, and Rel would have it guarded by his elite. "We can't fight our way through," Iriath stated. "We're not going through," Alex said, pulling up a schematic on Tamsin's datapad. "We're going under. The main energy conduits for the entire city run from the core to the Spire. They run through a maintenance channel 300 feet below this floor. It's hot, it's loud, but it's empty. Rel's soldiers are soldiers. They look up, they look side to side, they never look down." The journey through the maintenance channel was a special kind of hell. It was a tunnel barely tall enough to stand in, vibrating with the power of a contained star. The heat was oppressive, but Alex was right. It was empty. They emerged into a dark, silent substation, directly beneath the Sentinel Spire. "This is it," Alex whispered. "Rel's command center is 10 floors up. The elevator shaft is right there." He didn't get to finish. The lights flared on. A dozen peacekeepers in heavy assault armor stepped out of the shadows, their rifles leveled. They were not the clumsy patrols from the street. This was Rel's personal guard, elite, fast, and they were led by General Kraxos himself. "The Empress," Kraxos sneered, his voice amplified by his helmet. "And the human pet. How predictable. The Chancellor said you would come this way. Repairman." "Ambush!" Iriath roared, shoving Saris behind a generator. Tamsin opened fire, her twin pistols barking, but Alex was already moving. The sarcastic, tired mechanic was gone. The soldier Tamsin had glimpsed in the alley was here, and he was in command. "Iriath!" Alex shouted, his voice the clear, cold bark of a battlefield commander. "Right flank suppress. Use the conduits for cover. Aim for their joints. That armor's too thick." Iriath, recognizing a superior tactical mind, did not hesitate. She unleashed a precise, powerful stream of plasma fire, forcing the elite guard to scatter. "Tamsin left flashbang on my mark. Cover the crossfire. On it, Sunshine. Empress, stay down, do not move." Alex himself did not take cover. He moved straight down the center. He vaulted over a console, his borrowed pistol firing 3 precise shots that took out the 3 soldiers Kraxos had held in reserve. He moved with an inhuman, fluid grace, a man who had spent a lifetime in firefights. He was not just a survivor. He was a predator. Kraxos, enraged, charged him, activating the energy blade on his gauntlet. Alex didn't try to dodge. He dropped his pistol, grabbed a loose, heavy-gauge power cable from the floor. and interfaced. He slammed the live cable into Kraxos's chest plate. The general's armor, designed to stop plasma, had no defense against a raw, directed surge of energy. Kraxos screamed as 1,000,000,000 volts coursed through him, his armor exploding outward in a shower of sparks and molten metal. The fight was over in 10 seconds. The elite guard was down. Kraxos was a smoking ruin. The group stared, panting. Tamsin looked at Alex, her eyes wide. "Okay, so you're not a mechanic at all." "I told you," Alex said, retrieving his pistol. "I tinker." They took the elevator, ascending to the command center. "He knew we were coming," Sarah said, reloading her pistol. Rel knew. This was all a trap. "He's not a technician," Alex said, his face grim. "But he's not stupid. He's a zealot." The elevator doors opened. The Sentinel Spire Command Center was a smaller version of the main tactical room. And Rel Corvus was standing in the middle of it, waiting for them. He was not wearing armor. He was in his immaculate Chancellor's robes. He was flanked by 2 of his personal guards, but they did not raise their weapons. He was smiling. "Your Majesty," Rel said, bowing slightly. "And the ghost of Cygnus 7, welcome. I must confess, I expected you sooner." The serial froze. She looked from Rel to Alex, confusion and a new, terrible dread on her face. "What did he call you?" "He's stalling," Alex said, raising his pistol. "It's over, Rel." "Over," Rel chuckled. "My dear boy, it has only just begun." He gestured to the main console. "You are a genius. Alex Ward, truly. Your little back door in the core. The one you planted 5 years ago, it is a masterpiece of ideological spite. A beautiful human weapon." Saris's blood ran cold. She looked at Alex, her face ashen. "Alex, what is he talking about?" "A back door. He came here to destroy us." "Majesty," Rel said, his voice dripping with faux pity. "He didn't come to fix your world. He came to finish it, as revenge for his own." Hyperion Dynamics was quite thorough in their briefing. "You lied to me," Saris whispered, the betrayal hitting her harder than any plasma blast. "You came here to kill us all. It's not—" "It wasn't," Alex stammered, his focus broken. "This," Rel said, "is why your kind is an infection. You cannot be trusted. You bring only death. And you, Majesty, brought it right into our heart." "It's over. Rel!" Alex roared, lunging for the console. "I'm taking the grid back." "By all means," Rel said, not moving. Alex slammed his hands on the console. The connection was direct. The heart forge was there. He could feel it, singing in his blood. He tore through Rel's clumsy locks, ripped Kraxos' sabotage code out by the roots. He felt the shields stabilize. He felt the city's internal cannons go silent. He had done it. He had control. He turned, panting, a look of grim triumph on his face. Rel Corvus was still smiling. "You are so focused on the past, Ghost," Rel said. "On your little revenge. You think you have won. You have done exactly what I needed you to do." Rel placed his hand on a single, physical lever, apart from the main console. It was an old, archaic failsafe. "You have re-established the link," Rel said. "You have stabilized the core. You have made the connection perfect. Also, I could do this." He pulled the lever. It was not an attack. It was not a shutdown. It was a protocol. An ancient, deep core command that Alex had never even seen. "Welcome, Protocol Hyperion," a cold, automated voice announced. On the main tactical map, the city shield did not fail. It opened. A massive, perfectly circular hole, 50 miles wide, tore open in the atmospheric defenses, right above the Undercity. "You cannot stop a cleansing fire. Human," Rel hissed, his eyes alight with fanaticism. "You can only open the door for it. Outside, the sky filled with fire, thousands of dropships, black and angular, the unmistakable signature of the Hyperion Dynamics fleet, began their descent. They poured through the gap, a river of death, bound for the heart of Aurelian. The ground invasion had begun. For a long second, no one moved. The command center was silent, save for the triumphant, fanatic breathing of Rel Corvus and the distant, growing scream of incoming dropships. Tamsin was the first to respond. "He just invited them in. He just opened the door." "You," Saris whispered, her face a mask of ultimate betrayal. She was not looking at Rel. She was looking at Alex. "Your back door. This was your gate." "No," Alex said, his mind reeling. "Not like this." "I never," Rel Corvus laughed. A high, brittle sound. "You built the weapon, Ghost. You just lacked the conviction to use it. You, with your half-measures, your sudden, pathetic conscience. I, however, serve a greater cause. The purity of this empire, a cleansing fire." The first explosions from the lower decks rocked the spire, a deep, percussive rhythm of death. The invasion had begun. "They're landing in the human sector first," Tamsin said, her voice numb, watching the tactical map light up with thousands of red icons. "They're not just invading. They're exterminating." "Alex," Saris's voice was a knife. "Fix this. You have the console. Close the shield. Close the hole." Alex slammed his hands back onto the interface, his mind racing. "I can't." "He didn't just open it. That lever, it's a hardwired protocol. It's a physical override of the main emitters. I can't close it from here. I can't wait." His eyes went wide. "He didn't just open a door. He locked it open. The only place I can override a physical protocol like that is from the Heartforge itself, from the main core chamber." "Then we go," Erith said, her voice a low growl of pure rage. She raised her pistol, aiming it directly at Rel's smiling face. "Oh, I think not, Commander," Rel said. His two guards, silent until now, moved with blinding speed, leveling their rifles at Saris. "You are all my prisoners. You will stay here and watch the cleansing. You, Majesty, will watch your weakness burn. And you, Human, will watch your own people die, knowing you provided the means." "No," Alex said. He did not lunge at Rel. He did not watch the guards. He looked at the console, at the raging river of golden data that was the core. He had control of everything but the shield gate. "Alex, what are you doing?" Tamsin yelled. "You wanted a show, Rel," Alex whispered, his fingers flying. "I'll give you one." He plunged his consciousness into the system. He seized control of the Sentinel Spire's primary systems, the grav lift, the internal defenses, the power grid. "What is this?" Rel said, his smile faltering as the console in front of him died. "This," Alex said, "is me, taking back my house." He triggered the elevator, but he didn't call it. He severed its magnetic anchors. The 100-ton lift car plummeted 10 stories, landing at the base of the substation with a crash that shook the spire to its foundations. "There goes your elevator," Alex said, "and your reinforcements." He then seized the internal defense grid. The automated plasma turrets hidden in the ceiling of the command center did not power up. Instead, they overloaded. "Tamsin Iriath Serios, get behind the main console, now." The three women dove for cover as the ceiling turrets exploded, raining down molten metal and shrapnel. Rel's two guards were crushed instantly. Rel himself was thrown back against the wall, his robes on fire, his face a mask of shock. "And finally," Alex said, his voice cold, "the life support." He cut the oxygen to the command center. Rel clawed at his throat, his eyes bulging. The fire on his robes died, starved of air. "Let's go," Alex said, grabbing Saris by the arm. "Tamsin, Iriath, the stairwell. Go." They scrambled from the suffocating, wrecked command center, leaving Rel Corvus to his fate. They half ran, half fell down the emergency stairs, the sounds of the invasion echoing up from below. "He's," Saris gasped as they burst out into a smoke-filled concourse. "He'll pass out," Alex said, his voice hard. "Maybe he'll wake up, maybe he won't. We don't have time." The city was in chaos. Rel's coup had fractured the Imperial military. In the Spire, blue-armored loyalists were in a desperate firefight against Rel's silver peacekeepers. In the Undercity, Hyperion's black-armored marines were slaughtering everyone, Cathar and humans alike. They fought their way back to the main palace, back to the grav lift that led to the core. It was a brutal, running battle. Iriath, Tamsin, and Saris formed a triangle with Alex in the center, his mind half in, half out of the physical world, constantly manipulating the palace systems around them. He turned off lights, locked doors, and created short-lived force fields from energy conduits to block plasma fire. He was a phantom, a technomancer, and he was terrified. They reached the core lift, only to find it guarded by a full squad of peacekeepers. "We can't fight them," Iriath said, her pistol's energy cell running low. "We don't have to," Saris said. She stepped out from behind cover. Her silver hair was black with soot. Her face was grimed. Her ceremonial robes were torn. But she was, in that moment, every inch an empress. "Soldiers of the Cathar," she yelled, her voice ringing with a power Alex had never heard. "You follow a traitor. The Corvus have sold this city to the murderers of Cygnus VII. He has opened our shields to an enemy that will spare no one. Not your families. Not your children." The peacekeepers hesitated, their rifles wavering. "Look at your city," Saris commanded, pointing to a massive window that overlooked the burning Undercity. "That is not order. That is not purity. That is genocide. That is the work of Hyperion dynamics. I am your Empress, and I am ordering you to stand down and fight the real enemy, one by one." The soldiers lowered their weapons. The squad leader, his face a mask of shame, dropped to one knee. "Majesty, what are your orders?" "Hold this lift," Saris commanded. "Let no one follow us. And get me a city-wide broadcast, now." As the four of them descended into the humming cathedral of the core, Saris's voice, raw and powerful, echoed from every speaker in the city. "People of Aurelian, this is your Empress. We were betrayed. Rel Corvus and General Kraxos have sold our world to an old enemy, a corporation of mercenaries and murderers. They have opened our home, but they have not broken our spirit." In the streets, the fighting between loyalists and peacekeepers faltered. In the shelters, humans and Cathar looked up, listening. "I have failed you," Saris continued, her voice thick with emotion. "Our laws, our arrogance, our prejudice, we were divided, and that division has nearly destroyed us. No more. From this moment, there is no Cathar. There is no human. There is only Aurelian. I am asking you all to fight. Fight for your homes. Fight for each other. Fight for our world." It was a declaration of war and a revolution, all in one. They reached the Heartforge. The miniature sun was stable, but the shield plates around it were in disarray, held open by Rel's physical override. "Okay," Alex said, striding to the main console. "I can close the gate, but it's too late. There are thousands of them already inside. And the enemy fleet, they're moving into position to fire the main cannons. They're going to level the entire city, starting with the spire. He looked at the flowing golden code. He looked at the humming, captive star. We can't fight them, he said. We can't outrun them. We have to disable them. All of them. All at once. How? Arieth demanded. The Ashfall engine, Alex whispered. The name dropped into the humming silence like a block of ice. Saris looked at him, horrified. No, she said. Alex, that is the weapon they used on Cygnus 7. It is a planet killer. It is the core of your hatred. You cannot. I can, Alex said, his face grim. The Ashfall engine isn't just a weapon. It's a concept. It's a way of interfacing with a star, converting its matter into a specific, high-energy particle field. Hyperion used it to create an extinction-level wave of pure destruction. But that's not what it was meant for. He pointed to the core. This is a star. The engine is a forbidden module, but it's there. I can see it. I can activate it. And what? Tamsin asked, her voice trembling. You'll burn them all us, too. No, Alex said. Hyperion's version was a bomb. A blunt instrument. I'm going to use it as a scalpel. I am not going to create a wave of destruction. I'm going to create a pulse, a ring of energetic ash. Not to destroy them, to disable them. It will burn out their engines, overload their weapons, fry every unshielded system. It will leave them dead in the sky. You can do that, Saris asked, hope and terror warring in her eyes. I think so, Alex said. But to do it to rewrite the engine's core function from destroy to disable while it's activating, I can't do it from this console. The margin of error is too small. I have to interface directly. With my mind? Tamsin and Arieth looked confused. Saris understood. She looked at the neural interface port built into the side of the console. The one no Cathar had ever dared to use. The direct link. Alex, the energy will kill you. No, Alex said, pulling the interface cable from its housing. It won't kill me. It's just energy. It's just data. But it will burn. It will take a lot. To force that much power to show that much restraint, it's going to demand a price. My memories. My abilities. The man who did what I did won't be the one who wakes up. He was offering to sacrifice not just his life, but his own, his past, his rage, the very things that defined him. You're going to delete yourself, Tamsin whispered. I'm just fixing the code, Alex said, his hands shaking slightly as he held the neural plug. Rel Corvus has breached the core. A synthesized voice suddenly boomed. The lift doors exploded. Rel stood there, his face blistered and red from the fire. His robes burned away. He was encased in a suit of black and silver heavy assault armor, the one General Kraxos had been wearing, and in his hand, he held a pulsing energy blade. You human filth, Rel roared, his voice a synthesized scream. You will not take my city, he charged, not at Alex, but at Saris. Arieth, who had been standing guard, did not hesitate. She threw herself in front of her Empress. Rel's energy blade plunged deep into Arieth's chest, through her armor, through her heart. She looked down, not in surprise, but in satisfaction. My Empress is safe, she gasped, and slumped to the floor. Dead. No, the Ceres screamed. Tamsin opened fire, her plasma bolts sparking uselessly off Rel's heavy armor. He backhanded her, sending her flying into a console. Now, Ghost, Rel snarled, raising his blade over the fallen Ceres. You will watch her die. and then you will join her. Your vengeance ends here." Alex was holding the neural plug. He looked at Rel. He looked at Saris. He looked at the Heart Forge. He had to make a choice. The choice, he realized, had long been made. He dropped the neural plug. He did not charge Rel. He did not touch the console. He simply reached. He reached with his mind. With the raw, terrifying power he had hidden for so long. He did not touch the core. He touched the armor. The stolen, damaged suit that Rel was wearing. Alex's suit Alex had already burned out once. "What are you doing?" Rel stammered. His arm, suddenly heavy. "You're wearing my trash," Alex grunted, the golden core light flaring in his eyes. He commanded the suit. He commanded the network links that Kraxos had used. He commanded the broken, smoking circuits. Rel's armor seized, the arm holding the blade locked, twisted, and in a single, brutal, mechanical motion, plunged the energy blade straight down, through Rel's own chestplate. Rel Corvus looked down. He saw the blade embedded in his body. He looked at Alex, his eyes wide with a final, agonizing disbelief. "Purity," he choked, and then his own armor crushed him, collapsing inward, and he fell, inert. Alex collapsed against the console, blood trickling from his nose. The backlash from the direct override was immense. Saris crawled to Irieth's body, tears streaming down her face. Tamsin pulled herself up, clutching her broken ribs. "Alex!" Saris wept. "It's over." "No," Alex panted, picking up the neural plug. "It's just begun." He looked at the tactical map. The enemy fleet was in firing position. They had maybe 60 seconds. He stumbled to the console. "Alex, no!" Saris scrambled to her feet. "You can't. You've done enough. There has to be another way." "There isn't," he said. He turned to face her. His face was pale, his eyes full of a terrible, final clarity. He was right about one thing. "Saris, I did come here to destroy you. The ghost of Cygnus 7, he was real." "I don't care who you were," she said, grasping the front of his jacket. "I care who you are. Don't do this." "The city is dying," he said softly. He was about to turn away, but Saris did something that stopped him. She looked not at the console, or the fleet, or the dead bodies. She looked at him, in the heart of the core, surrounded by death, with her city burning. Empress Saris Cathera went up on her toes and kissed him. It was no kiss of passion. It was a kiss of desperate, absolute faith, a frantic, silent plea. She pulled back, her forehead resting against his. "You fixed my world once, Alex Ward," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I am asking you now, fix me, fix us." It was an emotional turning point. It was her final bet, that the man standing before her was no longer the ghost. He was the repairman. And in that moment, he was. The hatred that had fueled him for a decade finally broke, washed away by a trust he had never earned. "Okay," he whispered. "I'll fix it." He turned to the console, but Saris did not let go. She kept one hand on his arm, as if to anchor him. "This is going to be seen by everyone, isn't it?" Alex asked, his hand on the activation key. "The core feed, is it citywide?" "Yes," Saris said, confused. "Good." Alex smiled, a real, weary smile. "They should see this." He turned back to Saris, and in front of the all-seeing eye of the core, he knelt, just as she had knelt to him. "Majesty," he said, his voice now clear, broadcasting to the entire city. "I am a man with a dark past, but I believe in your future. I am requesting a formal title. Something appropriate." Saris, understanding. her eyes shining with tears, placed her hand on his head. Her voice did not waver. "By the blood of my ancestors and the light of the Heartforge," she declared, her voice booming across Aurelian. "I name you Alex Ward, Wanderer of the Heartforge. I call you High Advisor of Technology and Strategy to the Imperial Throne, a reward for services beyond measure." "Thank you, Your Majesty," Alex said. He stood up. He plugged the neural interface into the port behind his ear. "Tamsin," he said, his voice already changing, becoming distant. "Get her out of here. Get her back to the palace, now." "Alex." "No," Tamsin cried. "Go!" he roared. He closed his eyes. He fell into the star. It was not data. It was on fire. It was the rage of 1,000,000,000 souls. It was the power of the Ashfall engine, and it screamed for release. It screamed for vengeance. It showed him Cygnus 7. It showed him the black ships of Hyperion. It offered him the power to burn them, to turn them all to ash, just as they had done to his home. The ghost of Cygnus 7 rose, ready to accept, but in the fire he felt a hand, a kiss, a whisper. "Fix us." "No," Alex told the fire. "Not your way. My way." He grabbed the screaming and destructive code of the Ashfall engine, and with the full force of his will, his memories, himself, he bent it. He forced it to be more than a bomb. He forced it to be precise. He felt his memories begin to tear. The face of his daughter, smiling, gone. The name of his wife, gone. The color of his colony's sky, gone. The coordinates of Cygnus 7, the names of his squad. The face of the man who gave the order, gone, gone, gone. He paid the price. He paid it all. In the skies above Aurelian, the Heartforge pulsed. A wave of impossible, golden white ash erupted from the city. It was not a blast. It was a ring. A perfect, beautiful, silent halo of energy. It did not touch the city. It did not touch the residential towers or the spire. It swept upward and outward. The Hyperion fleet, poised to fire, was struck by the wave. There were no explosions, just silence. The engines of 1,000 dropships died. The weapon ports of the orbiting dreadnoughts became dark. The lights on the fleet's hulls sputtered and died. The entire invasion force, from the ships in the clouds to the ones in orbit, was rendered inert. They were just dead metal, floating in the sky. The wave of ash faded. The sun broke through the storm clouds. Aurelian was battered. It was burning, but it was still floating. In the core, the light in Alex's eyes faded. The neural plug sparked and fell from his head. He looked at Saris, who was staring at him, her hand over her mouth. He gave her one last, faint, confused smile. "The coffee pot," he mumbled. "I think it's fixed." And he collapsed, unconscious, to the floor. Aurelian floated, but it was wounded. In the days after the battle, the city was a testament to its own resilience. The lower decks were a patchwork of charred superstructure and emergency force fields. Entire residential towers were gone, leaving jagged holes in the cityscape that gaped open to the raging turquoise storms. Thousands of miles below, the Sentinel Spire, where Rel had made his last stand, was a blackened, skeletal ruin. But it floated. The Heartforge, stable and bright, hummed its deep, life-sustaining note. The golden shield pulse Alex had unleashed had been a miracle of precise, surgical power. The Hyperion fleet and the ships of Rel's traders were now just tombs. A vast, silent cloud of dead metal hanging in the sky. A new and terrible ring of debris around the city. Imperial salvage crews, a mix of blue-armored loyalists and newly deputized undercity mechanics, were methodically deorbiting the wreckage, pushing the dark ships one by one into the gas giant. A funereal procession that lasted for weeks. The political cleansing was faster, and just as brutal. Rel Corvus, pulled unconscious but alive from his own self-destructed armor, was put on public trial. The broadcast was mandatory, piped into every home, every shelter, every remaining holoscreen in the Empire. It was not a show trial. It was a dissection. He sat in the center of the Grand Chamber, stripped of his robes, his titles, and his arrogance. He looked small, his burned face a mask of bitter confusion. For 3 days, Saris, acting as prosecutor, laid the evidence bare. The secret accounts, the encrypted communications with Hyperion, the data sale of Cygnus 7, the authorization for the anti-matter lances, the final, fanatical order to open the shields. His crimes were not just treason and conspiracy. Saris had a new name for them, a human term: genocide. When the verdict was read, and Rel was sentenced to the Void, a form of permanent, conscious exile in a deep space prison, the city did not cheer. There was just a vast, collective, exhausted sigh of relief. The old, rotting system had been lanced. The poison was out. Alex Ward missed all of it. He woke to the color white. It was not the grimy, stained plastil white of the Undercity, or the blinding crystalline white of the Spire. It was the soft, sterile white of a medical bay. The air smelled clean, with a faint, antiseptic tang. A steady, low-pitched beep echoed his own pulse. He tried to sit up. A lance of pain shot through his skull, so bright and sharp it made him gasp. "I would not recommend that. High advisor." The voice was low and exhausted. He turned his head. A slow, agonizing process. Empress Saris Cathera was asleep in a chair by his bed. She was not wearing robes of state. She was in a simple, dark blue officer's tunic. Her silver-white hair was not in its intricate braids, but hung loose, falling across her face. Even in sleep, she looked burdened. He stared at her. A strange, hollow feeling in his chest. He knew her. He knew the precise shade of her eyes. He knew the sound of her voice. He felt a deep, protective resonance, an echo of a promise. He also had no idea who she was. He tried to access the memory. Series. The name was there. The Empress. Aurelian. The core. The fire. He remembered the fire. He remembered an all-consuming, terrifying rage. He remembered a girl's face, smiling. And then nothing. He reached for the rage. He reached for the hatred that had been his constant companion. For how long he did not know, but it was gone. It was not peace. It was absent. The place in his mind where a decade of burning fury had lived was now just a cold, empty, hollowed-out cavern. He could feel its shape, but the substance was gone. He was light, and he was terrified. "You're staring," she mumbled, not opening her eyes. "It's rude. You talk in your sleep," he managed. His voice was a dry rasp. Her eyes snapped open. The exhaustion vanished, replaced by a sudden, brilliant flash of something. Relief, joy. "Alex," she breathed. She was out of the chair in a second, her hand on his forehead, her touch cool. You're awake. You're lucid." "Mostly," he rasped. "My head feels hollow. What happened?" "You won," she said, her voice thick. "Alex, you saved it. You saved everything." "I fixed the coffee pot," he whispered, the last and confused memory returning. A small, watery laugh escaped her. "Yes. Wanderer. You fixed the coffee pot, Nike, and the entire city that was attached to it. You've been unconscious for 6 days. A tall Cathar in the robes of a senior medical officer entered. A doctor. He looked at Alex, then at the monitors, and his pale gray features almost smiled. "High Advisor Ward," the doctor said, and the respect in his voice was jarring. "Welcome back. You gave us quite the challenge." "What did I do to my head?" Alex asked. "You ran a petawatt of raw, unstructured data through your cerebral cortex," the doctor said, his tone clinical. "You attempted to rewrite a planetary-level operating system with your brain. You should be a vegetable, a very intelligent, very patriotic vegetable." The doctor brought up a holoscan of Alex's head. It was a maze of light. "But you are not," the doctor continued. "You are human. Your species' neural plasticity is, frankly, illogical. The Heartforge's energy had to go somewhere. The feedback loop it seems to have targeted and cauterized. For lack of a better term, the synaptic pathways that were sustaining the most significant, long-term emotional trauma." "You're saying," Alex said slowly, "it burned away my past." "No," the doctor corrected. "The memories are likely still there, in fragmented form. But the emotional charge of anger has been effectively wiped. It is an astonishingly successful, if entirely accidental, form of psychotherapy." The doctor nodded at Saris, his face professionally blank. "He will need rest, Majesty. And cognitive therapy. He will be a different man." When the doctor left, Saris sat back down. The silence in the room was heavy. "So," Alex said, trying to process it, "the ghost is gone." "I am sorry, Alex," Saris said softly. "For your loss, even if it was a loss of pain." "Don't be," he said, staring at the white ceiling. "I'm not." He felt a profound, unnerving sense of relief. The weight, the terrible, crushing weight that had defined his entire life was gone. He was just a mechanic. "Who am I?" he whispered. "If I'm not him, you," Saris said, "are the wanderer of the Heartforge. You are the High Advisor. And you are, I believe, still the galaxy's most infuriating repairman." Before he could answer, the door opened again. "He's awake and he's not a vegetable excellent." Tamsin Gray bustled in, her arm in a high-tech sling, a massive grin on her face. She was carrying a bag that smelled gloriously of real, actual coffee. "I pulled this from my private stash," she said, waving the bag. "Don't tell the Relief Fund Committee. They think I'm out sourcing protein bars." "Tam," Alex said, a genuine smile touching his lips. He remembered her. Clearly. "You look terrible." "You should see the other guy," she shrugged, wincing. "Oh, wait, you did. You kind of melted him. And his armor, and his boss. And Rel. And the entire Hyperion fleet. Honestly, Alex, your definition of fixing things is just terrifying." She poured him a cup of the steaming, black liquid. It was the best thing he had ever tasted. "So," Tamsin said, perching on the edge of his bed, "I've got a new job. Saris Her Majesty put me in charge of the interspecies relief effort, which means I'm the official #1 cat herder for the apocalypse. I'm coordinating supply runs between the Spire and the Undercity, using my old smuggling routes, if you can believe it. Seems illegal is just resourceful when an Empress says it is." She had become, Alex realized, a symbol, the sharp, funny, irrepressible human who was now handing out Cathar medical supplies to alien refugees in the human sector. "You've been busy," Alex said. "We've all been busy," Tamsin said, her grin fading a little. "This city is a mess, Alex, but it's different. They're working together, the Cathar, the humans, everyone. That speech Saris gave it kinda changed the air. She looked at him, her head tilted. The doctor said you were different, too. You seem like I don't know. You're not glaring at the walls. You don't look like you're about to punch a hole in the universe. The universe punched back, Alex said. Hard. Well, for what it's worth, Tamsin said. I like this version. He's less broody. Now, about your bill. My bill. Oh yeah, the fee for saving an entire planet. It's going to be astronomical. I'm working on the invoice. I'll be sure to add a line item for emotional damages. She winked, then leaned in. Seriously, Alex, it's good to have you back. As Alex healed, the city healed. Saris's reforms were fast and brutal. She dissolved the old, pure-blood Council of Nobles. In its place, she established the first Aurelian Interspecies Council. It included old, reform-minded nobles, military leaders like the one who had knelt at the core lift, and, to the shock of the galaxy, a Pakthar merchant, a Cathar engineer from the Undercity, and Tamsin Gray. She formally abolished the old alien registration laws. She declared all residents of Aurelian, regardless of species, to be full citizens of the Empire, with equal rights and protections. The old guard that was left protested. They called it heresy. They called it the end of their civilization. Saris, in a public address, simply said, Our civilization did end. It ended when we traded a world full of living souls for mining rights. It ended when we put our purity above our honor. This is the beginning of a new one, a better one. We will be an empire defined not by our blood, but by our strength. And our strength is our diversity. Alex watched the broadcast from a balcony in the palace. He was walking again, though his head still ached. He was wearing clean, simple clothes. Not a mechanic's jacket, not a uniform. He struggled with his new self. He would walk through the palace, and Cathar nobles, the same ones who would have spit on him a month ago, would bow. They called him High Advisor. They looked at him with awe. He felt like a total fraud. He was the hero who had saved them. But he could not, for the life of him, remember why he hated the enemy. He knew Hyperion was evil. He knew Cygnus 7 was a tragedy, but the feeling was gone. He was a soldier with no war, an avenger with no vengeance. He found Saris on that same balcony late one night. The city was quiet. Rebuilding work was slow, painful. They look at me like I'm some kind of savior, Alex said, standing beside her. They were looking down at the Undercity, which was no longer a slum, but Residential District 4, and was the first to receive the new, upgraded power grids. You are, Saris said, not looking at him. You saved them. I don't remember why, he confessed. The admission, painful. I know what I did. I know I built that back door. I know I came here for revenge. But I can't feel it. Saris? I can't remember her face. My daughter. I can't remember her name. The hollow, cold grief of it was almost worse than the rage had been. Saris was quiet for a long time. Then she turned to him. His name was Kale, she said, her voice soft. Alex looked at her, confused. What? My brother, she said. He was on a diplomatic mission to a problematic colony. Rel Corvus and my father ordered the fleet to pull back, to contain the losses. The ship was overrun. They sold him, too, for political stability. She met his gaze. Her own eyes, full of a loss, he now understood. I don't need the ghost of Cygnus 7. Alex, she said, her voice fierce. I don't need the man who came here to burn my world. I am so glad he's gone. She stepped closer. But I do need the man who saw a broken orbital cannon and fixed it with a sewage pipe. I need a man who knows how all the pipes connect. I need the high advisor who smells bad coolant and isn't afraid to say so." She gestured to the wounded, healing city. "The Empire is a broken, rusted, corrupted machine. Alex. The old engineers are all dead, or in exile. I don't know how to fix it alone." She looked at him, her vulnerability an echo of the moment she had knelt. "I don't just want a technical advisor," she said. "I want a partner. I want you to help me rebuild this. I want you to bring that human thing into our world, that flexibility, that stubbornness, that insane ability to admit when you are wrong and fix it." It was not a redemption request. It was not a reward. It was a job. The biggest repair job in the galaxy. "A partner," he repeated, the words settling in his chest. It felt solid. It felt real. "Is the pay any good?" She smiled. "Infuriating," she whispered. "To the very end." A month later, they held the memorial. It was in a new, wide-open plaza, built where Residential Tower 47 had been. It was not a grand Cathar monument of black marble. It was a simple, open garden, with trees imported from a dozen different worlds. Humans, Cathar, and Picatarg stood side by side. Tamsin was there, her arm out of the sling, standing next to the old human woman from the shelter. In the center of the garden was a simple, polished stone pedestal. Cirrus, in a plain white robe, placed a single object on it, the cracked, burned-out neural interface from the Heartforge console. The tool Alex had used to sacrifice his past. Cirrus looked at Alex, who stood beside her. "The council wanted an inscription," she said, her voice quiet, for him alone. "Something about victory and sacrifice. It felt wrong." Alex looked at the burned piece of technology. He thought of the rage it had contained. He thought of the peace it had bought. "Technology bears no sin," he said, the words coming to him, clear and true. "Our use of it defines us." Cirrus nodded, a slow, deep understanding passing between them. The ceremony ended. The crowd dispersed, returning to the hard work of rebuilding. Alex and Cirrus stood on the high palace balcony, the one that had become their place. The sun was setting, painting the gas giant storms in shades of fire and violet. The hole in the sky was long gone. The debris field had been cleared. Below, Aurelion's lights flickered, section by section. The new grids, linking the spire and the undercity, glowed as one. The city was scarred. The city was healing. It was fragile, but it was theirs. He was not an avenger. He was not a ghost. He was a repairman, and this was the work. He looked at Cirrus, at the young Empress who had gambled her entire world on him. He reached out, slowly, and took her hand. She did not hesitate. Her fingers interlaced with his, a firm, warm, and steady grip. They stood together, watching their broken, beautiful city light up the dark. 6 months passed. The sky above Aurelion was clear, scrubbed clean of the debris of war. The silence of the dead Hyperion fleet was a memory, replaced by the thrum of construction, the whine of grav welders, and the distant, chaotic noise of a city being reborn. The rot was gone. The scars, however, remained. The Undercity was no longer the Undercity. It was, officially, the Aurelion Residential District, Sectors 1 through 12. The old dripping pipes and flickering neon were gone, replaced by clean, stable power conduits and bright, steady illumination. The air no longer smelled of grime and recycled oxygen. It smelled of new paint, ozone, and the sudden chaotic proliferation of street food stalls run by humans. Cathar and Picatharg, all arguing over the same prime corner space. It was progress, and it was loud. The spire, too, had changed. The hushed, arrogant halls were now bustling. The new Interspecies Council, led by Empress Ceres, was a chaotic, argumentative, and brutally efficient engine of change. And at the center of it all, two people had fallen into a new, strange, and demanding rhythm. It is, with respect, High Advisor, a strategically inefficient allocation of resources. Lord Valerius, one of the few remaining nobles from the old council, said, his voice dripping with aristocratic disdain. The lower districts, forgive me. The residential sectors do not require a Tier 1 energy grid. It is excessive. The new council chamber was silent. All eyes turned to Alex. Alex Ward, High Advisor, leaned back in his chair. He was not wearing a mechanic's jacket. He was wearing a simple, black tunic that was clean, and, to his constant irritation, well-tailored. He tapped his stylus against the table. Lord Valerius, Alex said, his voice mild. You are correct. It is inefficient. It is also inefficient to build a house with only one door, or a ship with only one engine. It is inefficient until the moment it fails. And when it fails, it is called a tomb. He leaned forward, his casual tone gone, replaced by the cold precision that still made nobles flinch. We are done creating single points of failure. We are done creating acceptable losses. Rel Corvus proved that a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. We will have no weak links. The decentralized grid will be built. The sectors will be self-sufficient. Valerius flushed. The High Advisor speaks of engineering. I speak of tradition. Tradition, Alex said, is just the word for a bad habit we have not broken yet. We are breaking this one. Enough, Sarah said, her voice quiet, but cutting through the tension. She sat at the head of the table, not on a throne, but in a chair identical to the others. Lord Valerius, your concern for the budget is noted. Advisor Ward's design is not just an engineering schematic. It is a political statement. It states that every sector of this city is of equal value to the Crown. The motion is passed. She looked at Alex. The High Advisor is correct. We are breaking this bad habit. The council meeting adjourned. The various members, Cathar, human. Picatharg filed out, already arguing about logistics. Soon, only Alex and Saris remained. The silence in the room was comfortable, familiar. You were shouting, Saris said, a small smile playing on her lips. You know you are winning when you do not shout. I was not shouting, Alex retorted, rubbing his temples. I was emphatically projecting. There is a difference. He called them lower districts. I know, she said. She stood, stretching, the weariness of the past 6 months evident in the line of her shoulders. You are running yourself into the ground. Alex, look who is talking, he said. You have not slept in 2 days. The delegation from the mining guild. Can wait, she interrupted. I need air. It was their signal, their escape. They walked to the high palace balcony, the one that overlooked the vast, healing city. The perpetual, violet and turquoise storms still churned thousands of miles below. A beautiful, deadly sea. But the city felt solid. They stood side by side, not speaking for a long time. This had become their ritual. The arguments in the council chamber, the stressful, endless days of diplomacy and engineering. And then this. The quiet moments, alone, watching the lights of their new world flicker on. He had never addressed the kiss in the core. She had never addressed the way he had looked at her when he woke up. They had not spoken of the fact that he was, quite possibly, the only person in the galaxy she trusted, and she was, without question, the anchor that kept his new, hollowed-out self from drifting away. The love between them was as vast and as obvious as the gas giant below, and just as unspoken. It was in the way she handed him her datapad without looking. It was in the way he brought her a cup of real coffee, exactly how she liked it, at midnight. "Tamsin is doing well," Sarah said, just to break the silence. "Her new trade routes are unorthodox, but they are triple-grossing the old Imperial supply lines." "She is a smuggler," Saris, Alex said, smiling. "You just gave her a license. She is genetically incapable of doing things the orthodox way." "We need more of that," Sarah said. "That human flexibility. We are very rigid people." "You are learning," he said. She turned to him, her expression serious. "Am I? Or am I just leaning on you?" "Both," he said honestly. "But it is working." He was about to say more, to finally say something. But he, the man who could rewire a star, was a coward. He changed the subject. "I am going back to my lab," he said. "I have a theory about the new atmospheric stabilizers." Saris watched him go, a faint, sad smile on her lips. "Good night, High Advisor." "Good night, Your Majesty," he replied. His new lab was not the greasy shop in the Undercity. It was a vast, pristine workshop in the spire, filled with technology that made his old tools look like stone knives. But in the corner, on a workbench, sat a relic and antique, Earth model coffee pot. The same one he had been fixing when the world ended. It was his private project, his anchor. The door to his lab hissed open. "Burning the midnight oil, I see," Tamsin Gray said. She was not in a smuggler's jacket. She wore the crisp, gray and blue uniform of the Aurelian Reconstruction Authority. She looked respectable. It was deeply unnerving. "Director Gray," Alex said, not looking up from his wiring. "Should you not be out directing something?" "I am," she said. She walked over, dropping a heavy, scorched, metal and crystal box onto his workbench. "This—" Alex looked up. The box was an old model Imperial hardened data recorder. It was fused with slag, and one side was caked in what looked like burned crystal. "What is it?" "My crew's just finished clearing the last of the wreckage from the main core chamber," Tamsin said. Her usual breezy humor was gone. She was dead serious. "The place where Iriath, Rel, where you did your thing." "I remember," Alex said, his voice quiet. "Most of it was slag," Tamsin said. "But we found this, tucked inside a shielded power conduit. It was offline, protected from the pulse. It is the original, raw security log. From 5 years ago, Alex. From your first visit. The one before Rel and Kraxos wiped the server backups." Alex felt his blood run cold. "I have not watched it," Tamsin said. "It is sealed with Imperial encryption that only you or her can open. But I scanned the casing. It is the full audio-visual log from the day you fixed the flaw." She pushed it toward him. "I thought you should see it. The man you were. The man you are worried you have lost." She looked at him, her eyes full of a worry he had not seen before. "Be careful, Alex. Sometimes ghosts are better left in the grave." She left him alone in the lab. He stared at the box for a long time. He was not sure he wanted to know. The man he had been. He only felt his absence. A hollow place where a fire used to be. He slotted the recorder into his main console. He pressed his hand to the scanner. The crystal cylinder Saris had given him was still in his pocket. The console recognized his authority. and the file opened. The screen flickered. The timestamp read, Aurelian Standard Cycle, 947. 5 years ago. The video was grainy, shot from a high, fixed security angle in the core chamber. He saw the Cathar engineers, the ones who had been terrified. He saw himself. He recoiled. The man on screen was not him. This man was thinner, gaunt. He wore a simple mechanic's jacket, but he moved with a cold, coiled spring tension. His eyes, Alex zoomed in. His eyes were not the weary, sarcastic eyes of a repairman. They were chips of ice. They were dead. They were the eyes of a man who had already buried his own soul. He watched the ghost Azrael had called him, fix the flaw. He watched him placate the engineers. He watched them leave, bowing, grateful. Then, the ghost was alone. The man on the screen stood motionless for a full minute, just staring into the heart forge. Then, a small, terrible smile touched his lips. It was a smile of pure, venomous hatred. The ghost turned to the main console. He began to work. His fingers flew, but he was not fixing. He was building. He was weaving something new into the core's root code. A hidden pathway. A kill switch. Alex watched, sickened, as the ghost finalized the back door. The man on the screen leaned back. He looked up, his dead eyes seeming to stare directly at Alex, through 5 years of time. He spoke, his voice a cold whisper that the sensitive microphones picked up clearly. "There," the ghost said, as if to a partner. "It is done. You are stable, but you are mine now." He activated the protocol, hiding it, burying it beneath layers of benign code. "You traded my world for dust," the ghost whispered, his smile widening. "You think you are gods? Floating up here on your cloud? You are not. You are just high up, and one day soon, we are going to pull this entire, arrogant, filthy city right down into the storm." The recording ended. Alex staggered back from the console, his hand over his mouth. He felt violated. He felt terrified. Tamsin was wrong. He was not glad that man was gone. He was horrified that he had ever existed. Anger, hatred. It was not a righteous anger. It was a poison. It was an all-consuming, suicidal nihilism. The man on that screen would not have saved Saris. He would not have saved Tamsin. He would have let it all burn, and laughed while he did it. The Ashfall engine had not just burned his memories. It had saved him. It had performed an exorcism. "Gods," he whispered. He was a monster. "Yes." The voice came from the doorway. Alex spun around. Saris was standing there. Her face was pale, etched with deep, tired sadness. She was not looking at him. She was looking at the frozen image of the ghost on the screen. "Saris," Alex said, his voice a dry croak. "I am who I was." "I know," she said, her voice barely audible. "What I know," she repeated, finally looking at him. Her eyes were full of a pain that mirrored his own. "I found that recording, Alex, a month before the siege. My security loyalists discovered it during a deep system audit, trying to find Rel's leaks." Alex stared at her, blood pouring from his face. The implications of her words fell on him. You knew," he whispered, the words barely forming. "You knew. You knew I was a time bomb. You knew I came here to destroy you." "Yes," she said. And you." He flashed back to that first day. The burning city, the throne room. "You knelt before your entire court. You knelt down to him." He pointed at the screen. "No," Saris said, stepping into the lab. "I did not kneel to him. I knelt to you. I do not understand." "When I found that," she said, gesturing to the screen. I was terrified. I saw the ghost. I saw the pure, cold hatred he had for us. I saw the weapon he had planted in my world. My first instinct was to have you arrested, executed, thrown into the void. Why did you not? Because the man in that recording was not the man who had fixed the core, she said. The man who fixed the core had argued with my engineers about coolant types. He had asked for a reward. He was a mechanic. He was not a monster. Not anymore. I saw the file for what it was. A 5-year-old echo. I saw the ghost, but I gambled that the man who was still living, the man who repaired coffee pots in the Undercity, was different. Alex was speechless. The sheer, insane faith of it. You gambled, he choked. You gambled your entire world on a hunch that I had changed. Yes, she said. He felt a flash of anger. You should have you. That is insane. Is it? She said, stepping closer. Or was it just the first, truly human decision an Empress of Cathar has ever made? He stared at her, his anger warring with a profound, humbling awe. But then, a colder realization struck him. Wait, he said. When you called me, when the siege began, Rel was locking me out. You gave me your authority. The crystal. Yes. It did not just give me access, he said. It overrode all of Rel's protocols. It gave me everything. Tier 1. Root level. His eyes widened. It gave me access to the back door. It was the key. Yes, she said, her voice firm. Anger is back, hot and sharp. You did not just trust me, he accused, his voice rising. You tested me. You led me to the core. You purged the security. You handed me a loaded gun while my own people were being vaporized by Hyperion, and you just watched. To see if I would pull the trigger. He felt betrayed all over again. What if I had? What if the ghost was still there? What if he was stronger? You bet everything. Yes, I did, she said, her voice rising to meet him, her eyes flashing. And you did not pull the trigger. The words echoed in the lab, silencing his anger. Do you not understand? Alec, she said, her voice breaking. You had it all. Your perfect, terrible revenge Rel had revealed your past. Hyperion was at the gates. Your own people were being slaughtered. It was the perfect moment the ghost would have let it all burn. He would have helped them. She stepped so close. He could feel the heat radiating from her. But you did not, she whispered, her eyes shining. You fought. You raged not for your past, but for the present. You raged for the Undercity. You raged for my people. You raged for me. You had the choice. Alex, the ultimate choice. Vengeance or us. And you chose us. Anger evaporated, replaced by something overwhelming. This woman, this Empress, had not just trusted him. She had seen the monster inside him, and she had given him the sword, betting he would use it to fight for her, not against her. Her faith had been the crucible. Her faith had been the thing that proved the ghost was truly dead. I did not even know, he whispered. The back door I had forgotten I had that level of control. But I had not, she said. I knew, and I trusted you. I bet the planet on the man who fixed my orbital cannon with a sewage pipe. I bet on the man who yelled at my nobles about power grids. I did not bet on the ghost. I bet on the repairman. He looked at her, truly looked at her. He saw the Empress who had lost her brother, the woman who had carried the weight of a corrupt empire, the leader who had gambled everything on one, broken, human mechanic. He reached out, his hand shaking, and touched her face. You saved me, he whispered. Not in the core. You saw me, and you chose me. We chose each other, "Alex," she said, her hand covering his. He was quiet for a long time, the weight of her choice, her faith, settling on him, filling the hollow space inside. The rage was gone, the grief was gone, but this awe was solid. It was an anchor. "So," he said, his voice hoarse, "the debt is paid, the ghost is gone. My original mission is over. I am just me, a man with no past, and a very complicated present." He looked at his hands. "What now? I am just a mechanic. Ceres, I fix things. And you are an empress." "You are right," she said. She did not pull away. "You fixed my world, Alex. The systems are stable. The grid is secure. The machine is running." She turned, taking his hand, leading him from the lab, out onto their balcony. The city was a vast, glittering jewel box of light below them. "But the rot," she said, her voice low. "It was never just in the code. It was in us. In how we think. In how we treat each other. It is in Lord Valerius, who still calls the districts lower. It is in the new guards, who still look at Tamsin like she is a criminal. It is in me. Alex. Every time I almost fall back on tradition, or bloodlines." She squeezed his hand, turning to face him in the cool night air. "You fixed the world, Alex Ward," she said, her eyes pleading. "But we, the people, are still broken. The job is not done." She met his gaze, and he saw his new purpose. It was not a revenge mission. It was not a debt of atonement. It was a partnership. It was a job. "If you are staying," she whispered, "I mean truly staying. Do not just be my high advisor. Do not just be my engineer." "What do you want me to be?" he asked. "Help me fix that," she said, gesturing to the entire, flawed, beautiful civilization below them. "Help me fix us." He looked from her face to the city. He was not a wanderer. He was not a ghost. He was a repairman. And this was the biggest, most broken, most impossible machine he had ever seen. A slow smile, the first one that felt completely real, completely his own, spread across his face. "Fixing an entire civilization's prejudices," he said. "That is not a repair job, Your Majesty. That is a complete rebuild. From the foundations up. The labor costs alone will be astronomical," she finished, smiling back, the relief in her eyes making her look younger than she had in years. "I am staying," he said. It was not a promise, it was a fact. "But my terms are steep." "Whatever you want, Advisor Ward," she said, her voice soft. "Alex," he corrected her. "Alex," she agreed. He looked at the city again. "It is a mess. I know. It is going to be so much work. I know that, too." He turned back to her. "I am probably going to shout emphatically project a lot." "I would be disappointed if you did not." He slipped his arm around her waist, pulling her close. She did not resist. She leaned into him, her head fitting perfectly against his shoulder. It was not the desperate, frantic embrace of the core. It was easy. It was earned. It was right. They stood together on the high balcony, two small figures against the vast, glittering, healing city. Below them, the violet and turquoise storms of the gas giant still raged, a constant, beautiful reminder of the chaos they held at bay. But Aurelian, scarred and imperfect, stable and bright, floated on. And this time, it did not float alone.